Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Mel's 24, Unimento, M, Iron 26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKinnon, Retro Built, More Books, Fiber Oats, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
He came on here, that Alex Stein guy. I think he came on here one day.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
So what's his deal? Do you know?
He seems to be, I don't know if he like admits it or not, but he seems like he's a flat earther. He's definitely a moon landing denier.
He's no better than freaking, what's his name, that Paul dude.
Who?
Jake Paul.
Jake
Whatever
Paul.
his name is.
So what are you
I
saying,
didn't
Neil?
catch who.
He's a bad guy?
I don't trust him.
Fair enough. Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm using
Paul, what's your take on Alex Stein, Paul?
Alex Stein. Oh, he joined Blowbusters a few times, didn't he? Seems to be going for the populist, right wing, anti AOC type people, didn't he?
Yep. There you go. There you have it.
Yeah, the video, Nathan, I'm sure they're talking about flat earth and the start of it, but I don't know how much they get into after that because it's called conspiracy theory. So you might not want to do the whole thing, but it must be YouTube friendly because it's on YouTube. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's YouTube friendly for you, though, does it? So
I don't know. We'll have a look. What conspiracies do you believe in? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I'll put it in back office.
Yeah, I've got it up. Thank you. No, I'm happy to cover this.
Yeah, I've got one more, but I haven't listened to it at all. I normally watch the whole thing before I bring them up, but it's quite a long one. And I was imagining they'd go through, other things like probably more David Icke stuff, lizard queens and things. Maybe, I don't know, but
maybe
definitely
we'll
flat earth in the first 10 minutes.
I'm happy to go over this. I mean, I think there's a good chance we'll agree. Has he got over 100,000 subscribers and only 100 likes on this video? Has it literally just come out? Days ago?
I don't know. I mean, it might be one of these channels that have had subscribers purchased for them because their views don't seem to match, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, he's got 1.5 thousand views, 100,000 subscribers. I mean, 1.5 thousand views, don't get me wrong, some of our daily videos, and they're daily, which is why the numbers don't go up very high, are 1.5 thousand views with a quarter of the subs. Is it? I can't quite see it this distance. Is it almost 200,000 subs he's got?
I thought it was 100 and something. Let me check.
Is it? It looks like either 106 or 196. Can't quite see it this distance. Anyway, a lot more than me. Anyway, we'll cover it either way. Should really sound check him, shouldn't I?
What up, guys? I am Sarah GURVEY, and this is The People's Opinion. What we're going to be doing today is that we are going to be going to something a little bit different. We're going to be going into conspiracies because we've all been there, right? We've got friends, it may be us, we've got family members, and they all have these different conspiracies, whether it be about 9/11. The People's Opinion. What we're going to be doing today is that we are going to be going to something a little bit different. We're going to be going into conspiracies because we've all been there, right? We've got friends, it may be us.
What's going on? He's got someone banging around in the background of a pre-recorded video. It wasn't. Oh no, it's streamed. No, take it back. Take it back. I thought it was edited. It's not streamed. Fair enough. I'll let you off.
We've got family members, and they all have these.
What, in the background, making a load of racket?
Different conspiracies, whether it be about 9/11, the moon landing, aliens, flat Earth. There's so many different conspiracies out there. Who runs the world, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, blah, blah, blah. So you know what? I decided to have a talk about it because it's just been floating around a lot and it's becoming more and more popular, and there are more and more.
So what I take immediately from this is what we've been discussing the last couple of days is how what we cover isn't conspiratorial in any way, shape or form. We're talking about measurements of Earth. Couldn't be less conspiratorial, but on the flip side of it, it's also dull, if you want to look at it in one way. But how it's been punted into the general populace is through conspiracy. So alongside flat Earth, you've got what did he list? 9/11, aliens, all sorts of other crazy stuff, right? Because that's how flat Earth's been slotted in. I don't know about these notions on whoever's ruling the world according to him. We'll find out, I guess. But from that perspective, I'm like, yeah, we need to divorce ourselves from this conspiratorial section of the internet and focus on what we actually do, because it's not conspiratorial. And often I'll find myself, especially in a live show, shutting down various conspiratorial subjects. I say I've given him stick about noise in the background. Can you hear this guy outside my window with a strimmer?
More people out there who actually believe in a lot more quote-unquote conspiracy.
Again? Is that you, Neil, or is that just background noise from his video? I'm getting confused. So
that was Neil trying to tell you that we can't hear any of the noises either from the guy or your streamer guy.
You can't hear any noise from the video itself?
Well, I haven't been sitting in my chair the whole time, so maybe I'll notice it when you do it on the show.
I literally can't hear a word you're saying because the stream is so loud in my left ear.
Well, it's on the recording anyway. So.
One sec. Not a strimmer, it's a leaf blower. Anyway, sorry about that. Perfect timing that I should be critical of someone's background noise, eh?
Yeah, I was just saying that I think Neil's trying to say that he couldn't hear the strimmer because I haven't, the leaf blower, because I haven't heard it at all either.
Oh, that's good. The way I've got this room set up is such that the mic's pointing at me and it should reject things off axis, which is where this sound's coming from, but it just means I can't hear you. I've shut the window now, so... Okay, right, let's get on with this. You can hear the video though, right?
Yep.
Conspiracies, because I'm thinking, is it really a conspiracy or is it a fact? Jesse, are we in a conspiracy type universe, or is it because we don't know? This is why we come up with all these ideas.
Hello and hi.
That's Jesse, by the way.
Glad to be back on the show.
Was that one of his guests? Man, it's so confusing trying to respond to a live stream. Is that someone talking to him?
Yeah, I thought that was odd the way he did it. You know, they weren't sitting next to each other. He's like flicking between screens. He's a bit unusual.
Okay.
For people that don't know, Jesse's team last week,
it was a few days ago,
interrupted my stream. Arsenal, Declan Rice baby, apparently. Yeah, go on, Jesse. Introduce yourself, mate.
The CIA invented the term conspiracy theorist to discredit people who are asking questions.
Spot on. I like this guy. Jesse, you're the man.
You see, we're getting into it already. We are getting into it. Anyway, listen, guys, come in. Listen, tell all of your friends.
That extra angle does really add a lot of depth to this live stream, I've got to be honest.
Post it, post a link, let people know, tell them to come on in. I haven't posted it on any of my socials yet, which is probably bad of me, but, you know, they'll get it. They'll get it.
I mean, more from Jesse. He's got a much better audio setup and less reverb.
The first conspiracy we're going to go into, Jesse, yeah? People say that we never landed on the moon.
No, we didn't. To travel to the moon would involve a journey through a sky vacuum called outer space. At outer space, a sky vacuum would be a space for gas to fill. And gas, the stuff we're all breathing, fills space. So the fact that gas fills space debunks the idea that there is a sky vacuum above our head for us to travel to the moon through. Because if the area above our head we call the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would be filling it. Not only would it be filling it, it would have never developed gas pressure in the first place because it would have nothing to press upon. So outer space is fake. You can't travel to a light in the sky we call the moon via a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. Ergo, all claims of imagery from space, photographs from space, space travel, landing on lights in the sky is all automatically fake because it all takes place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum called outer space.
Now, as somebody who's not an astronaut and as somebody who is just a normal, you know, person in the public, I have to believe that NASA did land on the moon. A lot of people have said they didn't.
Why do you have to believe anything? You're saying because you're a normie, you're dictated to by societal standards, and based on your willingness to conform, you would choose to believe in the moon landings. But if it was something that was real and unequivocal, there wouldn't be any belief involved. It would just be, you know, the moon landings are true because here's the unequivocal evidence that it happened. As opposed to, here's the footage that looks like it was shot with 1960s standards. It's aged very poorly. And they had to travel through a sky vacuum. I don't choose to believe that because I know it's not true. But you choose to believe this. There's nothing forcing you to.
Jesse, did NASA land on the moon?
It's impossible to land on the moon because it's not a physical body. Just so we're clear, guys, I have many views.
What? I don't know that, and you don't know that. I mean, this guy was pretty clearly showed his hand quite early as at least a moon landing denier. But he doesn't know what the moon is, and neither do we. So to say, well, it didn't because here's my crap conspiratorial standard that I say it's non-physical. Now, I don't know that it is physical, but I don't know that it isn't either. I don't know what it is. So that's a... Who's off mute? Someone's desperate to cause audio chaos because they're keen. Go on, who wants to cause audio chaos in my panel? Neil, I'm guessing it's
That was
you.
an accident.
Oh, right, okay. Jolly good. Let's be critical of him and his guest while my guest rumpus me with audio chaos. Now I've got a whirly whirl. Stupid Virgin Media.
What?
On many things. Yeah, the moon isn't a lump of rock floating around in space. It's not a...
I mean, we don't know that it's not a rock. I mean, I'm not going to agree that it is, but I don't know what it is.
a spherical satellite that orbits the Earth. Because the Earth isn't a globe.
Oh my God, this is great. Listen, Jesse, I didn't even know you thought like this, bro.
Yeah, no, but before we continue,
we're gonna have to go on.
Am I coming through? Is the sound coming through? Because last week we had some issues.
I don't know. You have to ask the people. People, can you guys hear Jesse?
Can you hear both of us?
Can you hear us in the chat? As a matter of fact, let's have a look.
Very important. Can you hear us?
Hang on.
This annoys me. I don't know, maybe it's just because I've got some very high standards with how this live stream should appear, which is to say that I've got all my guests sorted, I've got a sound check. Admittedly, sometimes good stuff happens in that, so you record it, or at least I do. And then once everything's all in place, you know the audience can hear you. Then you go live and do your stuff, as opposed to asking your live chat if you can be heard. I don't know, it depends on the standard. If with this guy with over 100,000 subscribers, it maybe it's to his detriment if they aren't real, or he's had something happen to a load of subscribers. I don't know. But either way, it sort of sets a standard, doesn't it? It sets an expectation in terms of what this stream's going to be like if you've got over 100,000 subscribers. And this is kind of, you know, I don't mind if John LeBon does this when he's got a little limited audience and, you know, he's got his other sideline paywall stuff that I'm sure he puts a lot higher effort into. That you have got a lower standard for, but this just kind of irks me a little bit.
Let me see. Yes, you can.
You can. Perfect.
We can.
So, Copernicus is the one that first proposed the heliocentric model of.
What about the moon not being physical or being physical in your example, right? Straight on to Copernicus and what the globe says. I don't get it. Flat Earthers' mentality says, I'm going to make a baseless assertion that, in this instance, the moon is non-physical. Okay, right. And what am I going to back it up with? Well, I'm going to start talking about orbital motion. Why? That's a claim they've got to make and defend, as opposed to you've got to bring up in defense of a non-physical moon
of the Earth. Heliocentric, it just means.
Oh, wow. Go on.
It's just the model we believe in. Like, you know, we have the sun at the center of our solar system.
Copernicus. And who was Copernicus?
Let me.
Was it? He sounds Greek, or
yeah, Copernicus. Nicholas Copernicus. He was a Renaissance pliomath, active as a mathematician, astronomer, and Catholic canon, who formulated the model of the universe that placed the sun rather than the Earth at its center.
Right.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
So go on. Tell me why you think that we didn't land on the moon. Go on.
Because it's not a physical thing. The moon and the sun are plasma. They're not.
He already did. He just backed it up with a complete non sequitur about Copernicus.
Like lumps. The sun isn't like a ball of gas burning 500 million light years away, and the moon isn't like a rock that orbits.
This is what happens, right? This is what happens when you watch David Weiss and Jaron and all the other numpties that are out in Flat Earth telling you that you haven't got an open mind, and then telling you how they perceive the heliocentric model to be wrong.
The Earth. That's not what it is.
What? All right, fine. This is why we're having this episode today, because okay, if the moon is not a physical celestial thing,
it's a local light source, just like the sun. The sun
is a local light source,
just like the sun. The moon and the sun are the same size, the same distance away.
What?
Yeah, guys. Like, so I'm not like.
Why are you making all these baseless assertions? I mean, this is amateur night from a flat earther that's just regurgitating the crap that he's got from our arena. I mean, it's not like I can fault the guy. You know, if this is what he's been laid down with, this is the standards that he's been offered via the flat earthers that are on YouTube currently, for the sake of argument. This is what he's going to parrot, isn't he? This is all he's got to parrot. You don't have an open enough mind. Here's how the heliocentric model works, and it seems a bit silly. I say the moon is a fixed distance and same size as the sun, non-physical. You're like, okay, these are all baseless assertions from flat earthers, and you're like, wow, it just makes us seem so lacking when we've come so far in terms of being able to actually prove the Earth's measured flat, how it's measured flat, and how globe claims come from flat Earth measurements. To take it to a point where you're just asserting stuff about the moon because you've been asked whether or not the moon landings happened, and to say it didn't because the moon's non-physical. You're like, this is crap. Really crap.
Yeah, about the measured Earth thing, I would go with measured flat Earth, because you have to connect it so people know what you're talking about. Otherwise, we'd be like the true Earth, and that true Earth could mean anything, couldn't it? It's like non-specific.
I agree. I actually did think it after I literally wrote it out in Skype after I'd thought about it. So I wrote hashtag measured Earth and thought, on reflection, flat measured Earth or Earth measured flat, or what was the one you just said?
Measured flat Earth, because it's measured flat.
Flat Earth. I actually like that the best. Measured flat Earth. Yeah, I think hashtag measured flat Earth. Yeah, if you're gonna take the culmination of all the conspiratorial nonsense that's surrounded Flat Earth for the last 10 years and wrap it up in a term, True Earth, and talk about monitoring the moon and looking at waves over it and talking about scientific validity for ether and all that crap. Fine, great. Now it's been pigeonholed and separated from Flat Earth in some form. And perhaps people who have a True Earth to punt have also got a Flat Earth belief. Maybe. But we're not interested, or I'm not interested in this conspiratorial realm that I've been in for the last 10 years. There's something unnerving about it that I've never been able to put my finger on. What is it about where I find myself that I dislike? Because from a individual perspective, when I go out into the world that I live in, I'm generally very happy. And then you involve yourself in the anti-flat earthers and you can quantify why they are miserable and attempting to project that misery onto you. But in terms of the unease that I feel around the people that are supposed to be on, quote, my side, flat earthers, it's because they're conspirators. That's what the problem is. Excuse me. These people are into conspiracies. And I'm not. That's the bottom line here. I like finding out about the reality of the Earth. That's fascinating in the same way I'm also interested in reading instruction manuals more than novels. You know, how something works is fascinating. The fantasy of a novel doesn't intrigue me. Whereas I think a lot of the flat earthers, they want a drama, they want a novel. They want a fantasy. They want a bit of escapism. And I don't know, I don't want to offer that to anybody either. I don't feel I'm obliged to offer a new fantasy to replace an old one. And what we're hearing from these two guys is nothing more than a regurgitation to a normie. This guy on screen now is just a normie. No offence to you, mate, you're just a normie in this regard, and your reactions are justified and warranted in every regard. I'll probably have very little criticism for how you behave here, because you're just a normal guy. So therefore, when you go, what? It's non-physical? Yeah, without anything to back up that outrageous claim that you've just been offered by a flat earther, presumably, your reaction's warranted, I feel. You know, based on what I understand of your indoctrination onto a globe and the way it's been put to you by the flat earther. So, more and more videos we cover, the more critical we're becoming of flat earthers, and the less criticism we have for offer to the in the dark to begin with normies, because how can you blame them? But the flat earther in this scenario should know better, as far as I'm concerned, and it just feels sad that I'm having to be critical of flat earthers. Well, unless I can quantify it somehow, and by saying, no, this guy with his, it's a non-physical entity that's the same height and distance off a flat plane or whatever he's claiming in the context he's claiming it. It's like that's your fantasy, mate. You've been sold a dream by flat earthers, and you're now regurgitating without any validity at all. And it saddens me that I should have to be critical of that when the people who are around me that understand Earth is flat, oh, my bad, they don't. They just believe it, don't they? Believe it like they believe in the 9/11 conspiracy, whichever one they pick, or they believe in the moon landing conspiracy, whatever the one they pick from the false information. You know, that's what they want. They want a conspiracy. So this is an appropriate title. Good choices of videos, by the way, Paul. Last 3 in a row, you've hit them right out of the park with your choices.
I'm not one of these people that hears things and dedicates my life to. Oh my god! Like, I hear them. I do my research.
No, go into it. How is the moon a light source?
Okay, for example, let me.
I mean, he did almost so well there. The normie. I'm sorry, I should know this guy's name. Is it Sarah? Is that his name? Sarah GURVEY. I don't know what to call you. Sar? Sounds like a pronoun. Okay, well, anyway, I'm just going to be called Normie. I'm really sorry, guy. Normie was almost there with a decent response, wasn't he? How do you know it's non-physical would have been the right response? It's not quite where he went, though, is it? Why is it a light source? Because it's a source of light. What do you want? You could have gone so much. Oh, forget it.
Let me try and find a picture of the
moon being light. Yeah, that's how you can overcome this objection pretty sharply.
Landing, yeah. So basically,
no, we've got.
Oh, he's back onto that. segue off topic. Each one of them's coming bouncing off the rails. Then this guy's trying to bounce it back on the rails.
What videos of it? Don't
Yeah,
worry.
but I just want to get a picture because when the astronauts were on the moon, okay, it was very.
When the astronauts were on the moon, they weren't. Then why start it phrased that way? They were never on the moon. They never went through a sky vacuum to get to it. It's all a big lie. But you've already started this phrasing in the way a true opposition-led flat earther should be phrasing it. When they did land on the moon, having traversed the sky vacuum, why? Why? What are we doing here? Are we wasting our time?
Dull in color. Oh, I have a picture already on the thingy. It was very dull in color. Okay,
Right, we've spoken. Like,
when you look at the moon,
What do we do, Paul? You're a fairly pragmatic character. What do we do? Are we wasting our time here? Are we banging our heads against the wall? We've done the work for this guy to be good, haven't we?
Yeah. No, but just like people, general people can't find us, genuine new people, normies as you'd call them, flat earthers can't find us either. And we just need to find a way of making a bigger effort to find more people. You know, the trouble with a lot of the truther movement, conspiracy theorists, whatever you want to call them, they left YouTube or got kicked off YouTube, and some people won't even visit YouTube anymore. So that's why I suggested Odyssey, but unfortunately that didn't seem very popular. And there's now Rumble, but there's so many others. Like if you upload to BitChute, you might get more conspiratorial people on there, and there's Brand New Tube and Brighteon, and you know, there's the Alex Jones one and the Owen Benjamin one. There's a couple of others. FakoTube might be worth uploading videos to, because there are people who just will not look at YouTube. And they happen to be flat earthers, a lot of them, which is a problem, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, I do. I need to get into doing more. But I don't know, like I say, or I've said to you in the past when I've done the various of the platforms that I've done, they've never taken off. So, yes, it's obviously worth exploring them. It doesn't mean you should just assume they're all going to be like that. But, you know, in the past, I've put a fair amount of work into each of the ones that I have tried to do, and it's never really resulted in anything. But yeah, I'll keep trying that tactic. That's something you've suggested in the past.
The one idea I had would be is if you set up your OBS to do two real-time messaging protocols, send one of them to a program like Restream and one to your normal YouTube feed. That way you keep everything the same as you like it, but then you're also restreaming to, I think you can do 2 or 3 for free, and just try different ones and see if you get anyone watching. Because there's Twitch and Kick and things to try. I think you could even do Twitter now, X as it is.
Okay. I'm going to have to collar you at some point next week and see if I can pick your brains a little bit more about how I go about doing these things, and then start at least implicating maybe one of them. So I know you mentioned Kick. I've no idea what that is, but let's just say Kick. I'll do Kick and just restream to Kick so that I'm doing multicasting. Now, YouTube don't have an issue with that, but I'll have to check terms of service with whoever I do it with, because I know Twitch, specifically Twitch, will not allow you to multicast.
They rolled back on that because of complaints.
Oh, so they can't. So you can now well, maybe Twitch then.
Yeah, so Richie streams on Twitch and Rumble and YouTube.
Yeah, so that's something I can potentially do as well. There's no reason why I can't expand my reach in that regard.
So you've been rather busy for the last 14 months. So.
Yeah, I've been a bit busy, but that's
okay. I'm happy to go over anything. You know, either during the pre-show or maybe at the weekend we could find an hour or so, because I wanted to try this Jitsi Meet to replace, or to look as an option to replace Google, because it's actually better quality program. It's not about necessarily defunding Google. It's just it's a better quality program, because that's what Element uses for their voice channels. So the sound quality is better.
This is versus,
and it's also free.
This is versus Google Meet, because I must admit the thing that annoys me most about Google Meet is that there is no individual volume control level for each guest.
Yeah,
which there used to be in Hangouts. Which annoys me greatly.
Yeah,
but yeah, that is something I will also look at addressing. Something else I can do is more edited videos. That directly helps my ability to post on these places if I've got more short form videos. But I've got more time to do those now, and I have been. Along with, what was the other thing I was going to suggest I do? I don't know. It'll come back to me. Jolly good.
So
Right.
when are you going live then, Nathan? Sorry.
I'll go live at the normal time. It's just having an extended after show means that when the live show does finally end, I can do a shortish after show and then get a little bit of rest before we go out for curry. So Flat Earth Friday, curry at Craig's Curry House, which it isn't. It's opposite him, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the GPU just came back this morning by the postman. So
you're gonna flog it or flog one?
I'm going to test it in my Beast.
Oh, okay.
To see what happens.
Cool.
Because it's lower power, and I'm a bit worried that the TI was the wrong choice. So I can sell the TI if this works out right. But I've got a feeling that you're correct, and there might be something wrong with it. But who knows?
I didn't have the backplate on it. That's the only thing that I can think of that's different between what I've got in there now and what was in there. There was no backplate, so there's potential that something on the backside of that GPU was overheating and causing an issue. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. What I do know is
they only have so many temperature sensors, don't they? So you don't. There are some blind spots, I think.
Well, when we first put it in, Craig had a thermal camera on it because it just wasn't mounted initially. It wasn't mounted properly, and we just overcame that problem. But I do remember looking at the thermal camera, going, "Wow, there's some like 100-degree hotspots on various points of the card," and you're like, "Why are they there?" And you just don't have an answer for it. Whereas with this one, it's still got the original backplate attached, and I just spray painted it just through needing one quickly. The one that was available was white, and I'm like, yeah, just order it. And as soon as it came, I was like, it looks awful. So I literally spray painted it with just some cheap spray paint, just so you can't see it in the case. But that wasn't even there on the one that you purchased that you've just got back. But either way, just so you don't lose a bucket load of money on it. If anything, if you sold certainly the one that came back today as is with its stock cooler on it, it wouldn't pose any issues to the purchaser. That's the first thing. So don't concern yourself with selling it because it's broken. I don't think it is. I just think it's not very user friendly in a passive case. But the same goes for the TI. They're going to release the Super Series at CES, which is like first quarter of next year, so very, very soon. And as soon as they do, they'll reduce all the prices of the current range. They won't disappear, but they'll be heavily reduced in price. So now, on the run up to Christmas, in the next 2 weeks, is the time to sell one of those GPUs because they'll be worth 15, 20, maybe even 25% more than they will be after Christmas.
Yeah, I think I'll sell the TI either way, and then I'll either, if I can't get the standard to work, then I'll get a replacement for that and sell the other one with the cooler, as you say, because I just think the TI is going to be too much. Because the main issue, apart from the builders with your PC, is that they've over specified how much heat it can dissipate. I don't think it can dissipate the heat they claim, and I think you've found that, haven't you?
I agree. I know it can't, but mine's in a corner, so it doesn't have any. The sides aren't, radiating to cool air. They're radiating to a wall. So from that perspective, I certainly in videos I've seen, it does edge up to what they say it's capable, but not quite. So from that point of view, maybe the TI would be fine if it's in a reasonably open environment. But you don't want it to be fine. You want it to be like it's water cooled, like very low temperatures, and you don't ever have to think about it, as opposed to, oh, well, it's getting up to 90°C, but I'm sure it's okay. It's not going to go over that. You don't want it to be like that. For me, the fact that this isn't a TI is far less stressful, because with a bit of an undervolt, it pulls 150 watts. Well, given they've rated it for 250 watts, it never goes over 70°C, ever. They're like, brilliant! 90% of the problems that this case had have been solved immediately just by having a lower power GPU in it. Now, the TI is the same power as the 3070 that I had in this, because basically it is actually the replacement. It's the equivalent in terms of spec and build, and it would be the natural replacement. They've just jiggered the numbers around. So what would have been a 4070 is now a 4070 Ti, which is what you've got. But it just generates too much heat for the case, in my opinion. Whereas the 4070 that's in it is absolutely perfect. It never gets too hot. It's never overheated. But that one, the one that you've just received back, did. So that's actually got a higher TDP. It's 220 watts TDP as opposed to 200 watts. And in my setting, that made all the difference. So, I was never really willing to turn the power down on it, because a whole new card, and you're like, why would I do that? It's rated for 250, 220 should be fine. But in reality, what I should have just done is slid the power down by 10%. And that's actually what I've done on this one, even though it's probably not necessary. I've just slid the power down by 10%. So now it never goes over 65 degrees C on the average. I mean, it hits about 80 on the hotspot, but it's just nothing to ever concern yourself with. Under 90C, you never have to worry about it. And that's what I want. I never want to have to ever think about it. And that's perfect. But like I say, what I would suggest, if you do use it, just keep the backplate on it. Figure out a way of securing the backplate to the card, not taking it off. And then whatever wasn't being cooled on the back half of the card will be.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. And also, are you keeping an eye out for when there's better CPUs are going to be available? Because having a slightly more efficient CPU will help in the future as well, won't it? Because mine's much better. I went with the AMD 800 or whatever it was.
Yes, I have, but I've decided against doing that. So the only way to achieve that is to just change the motherboard and buy whatever the generation comes next. So the newer stuff, which is 13th and 14th gen, they are a little bit more power efficient. That is true, but not much. And what they've done to make them quote unquote better is actually make them pull even more power. So when I've looked at them stacked up against what I've actually got now, they, in all circumstances, draw more power. So it's like, okay, yeah, they're a little bit more efficient at getting a bit more out of a lot more power that they put into them. But for me, it just seems like I don't think that's going to be worth it. I don't actually think it would be a solution. So I passed on 13th gen, which at the time, there was various points that I could have just strapped another 400, 500 quid onto a GoFundMe or something to resolve that issue. But none of them ever seem to actually spec out the way I would want them to. The only one that's come close is the newest 14700, which is a little bit more efficient, slightly more core count, and better memory controller and things like that. But you're like, is it worth it now that this is actually working? And you think probably not. I mean, I say it's working. Yeah, it still falls over in sleep, so it'll crash in sleep still. But I'm still, because it's not overheating, every so often I'll tweak the voltage down a little bit, or up as the case may be, the undervolt down a little bit, if you will. And I'll get to the end of that problem probably after a month, because it's a very, very intermittent issue. But it's not like it's falling over daily at all now. And given another month of tweaking it a little bit to my satisfaction, I'm confident it'll last another 5 years exactly as it is, without any need to change the CPU. So I don't want to change anything in it. Ideally, it would just stay exactly like it is and be forgotten about for the next 5 years. And I think I'm almost there. Like I say, other than it crashing in standby or sleep, it functions perfectly. It hasn't crashed all week. Last week it crashed once right at the end of the week. But compared to daily crashes or twice daily crashes, it's a world apart from what it was a year ago. And I don't think it's necessary.
And managed yesterday well, because I think you said that's the most stressful thing doing the tinfoil.
After I finished the show, when I rounded out the after show, normally what I'm doing while the outro's running is start closing down windows, and the one 4K monitor was absolutely littered with high resolution 4K videos. There were several of them all loaded at once, all with stuff sat on top of it, overlapping it. Skype and Discord and G+ and the live preview that I have open, like I say, along with a whole bunch of 4K videos that were all queued up, and photographs that were all queued up. My camera's on, my OBS is on, my banana's on. I've got another separate live streaming preview going on in the separate window. My VLC's running for my videos that you can see on screen if you're an audience member in the Hangout. Like you can see them now in the Hangout, right? With a picture of the zenith angle and stuff. Well, that is also running. Voice Meter Banana and all the shortcuts are running. My little clock's running. I've just got so much crap all running at once, along with the encoder running for the live stream, a separate encoder running for the recording. There's just so much stuff going on this computer, and it didn't miss a beat yesterday. So I was absolutely elated. That would have been typically where yeah, I'd have had a problem. Something would have gone wrong. But it's just a balancing act, really. How much power you're prepared to give a CPU that wants 250 watts? And where do you draw the line? At what point do you say, no, I'm happy that it can get to 93C in certain circumstances? No, I'm happy that it can get to 95C because it's now getting even hotter. So you just have to kind of draw that line, which I found ages ago. I actually found it while it was overheating. I could just never stop it from overheating. So now when I'm like, I see a minor issue and I go, oh, I know what that is. That's the X voltage. And I'll just tweak it a little bit and then the problem goes away. Or you look it up and then you turn some switch off in Windows. So there's all the hardware info numbers. I've got all the temperatures and fan speeds and all sorts of other information that's on the icon bar at the bottom of Windows. And for some bizarre reason, it would just start flashing in all sorts of different, all the numbers would all start rearranging themselves. And then the computer would crash. And you're like, what's going on? But it wasn't under load. It wasn't doing anything. It just randomly crashed. So I just looked it up on Google like you do. Found that if you're replicating your taskbar on 2 different monitors, it can cause that to happen. Turned it off. Problem went away. But bear in mind that, let's say that happened 6 months ago, which it did. Something very similar happened. Immediately, what I go to in my mind is, it's the voltages on the GPU. It's the voltages on the CPU. It's the voltages on the RAM. And you start tweaking with things. When in reality, no, it has crashed. And it is hot. But the two things aren't actually related in that circumstance. There's actually a software glitch with Windows that's causing it to crash. But you don't know that, so you end up going round and round and testing and stress testing, and you still end up finding that it is, strictly speaking, unstable. So you find a fault eventually in the stress test, and then you just go round and round and round indefinitely. But all of that, to get to my point, was all caused by just having a GPU that was overspec'd. That was the primary cause of that problem, was having a 270-watt GPU that, no matter how much I power limited it, I could get it down to about 115, maybe 110 watts before it would start to shit the bed in terms of what it was doing. And even then, it was too much. Whereas that GPU that you've just received, whoops, where am I going? Is 220 watts stock. You don't have to reduce it down to get it to be at where I could just about balance out that 3070. So all I'd suggest is undervolt it a tiny bit and reduce the power a tiny bit, and you'll never have any problems with it. I'm pretty sure I said that to you about 8 months ago. Like, just undervolt it a little bit and power limit it a little bit, and you'll be fine.
Good morning, John.
Morning.
What I would really recommend, though, Nathan, as a software trial, if you can get a thumb drive and put Ubuntu on it and just boot up your computer via the thumb drive and just give it a try, just a basic system, and just see if you can get it to work, because I find that to be far more stable than Windows 11.
Yeah, fair enough. Now I'm realizing that some of the instability I experienced over the last 14 months was nothing to do with hardware and everything to do with Windows 11. I'm more inclined, because I'm sure last time you suggested this to me, I'm like, no, I'm fine with Windows, but I was on Windows 10 and it was actually reasonably stable. Now I'm on Windows 11 with stable hardware. I can actually see the cracks in it, and you're like, wow, this product is crap. It's got so many issues. Anyway, yeah, so that is something else I'll look into, but that's a major overhaul, so that's something that I'll probably do after.
I mean, and if I can do basic coding in Ubuntu, then anyone can, so it's not difficult. And I would say Ubuntu rather than Mint, because I'm more familiar with it and I could help you. And two, it's, what would you say? Its appearance is very similar to Windows as well. So I think it's the most user-friendly option.
Well, they stick it with loads of like lightweight laptops that they release, Ubuntu, because it's obviously very light on operating resources, so good for a cheap laptop, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, you really just go on, search, install this program, and someone will tell you exactly what to type out in the terminal. So it's not like you need to learn coding. It's just cut and paste in most of it.
Fair enough.
And I'm sure Craig could help you if needed as well.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I've got no intention of talking shop with him. So I've been putting off a curry with him for quite some weeks, because every time I want to go out with him just to have a curry, as a mate, as opposed to sit down over a curry and go, I've got this problem with my, you know, and then start listing off something like that, you know, description of things.
He's already been, I don't know, you need a new word above generous, a brand new word for him this time.
Say again.
I say he's been very generous with his time and everything, hasn't he? So it's amazing, really.
I can understand how he can be. So I'm not decrying what he's done with his time, but he slips the work into his rotation. So let's say I bring the computer down. He's good enough to immediately start working on it. But obviously, typically, he's in a shop, so he's got 15 other jobs that are all working away. And it might be that let's say one computer's having Windows installed on it, and there's going to be a gap, and he's going to walk off and solder something onto a motherboard, and then when he's finished soldering, check if the Windows update's done, and then go back to a customer that's walked in, and so on and so forth. He'll just slip the computer into that rotation instantly. So, you know, he'll stick it on, bung a stress test on, and then walk back to the Windows install he's doing. So in other words, it's being worked on immediately, and sometimes I'll say, oh, he's worked on it for 4 hours. Well, he has, but he's not inefficient, so it's not like he's had to chew out 3 or 4 hours of his day and nothing else has been done. He's sticked into the rotation, but he's still had to, in physical terms, for it to do the thing it's doing. It's still taken that amount of time for him to go through the motions. And yeah, there might be a 5-minute gap when he's not looking at it and it's finished the last task, but he's still effectively working on it for like 4 or 5 hours at a time and not charging me anything. And you're like, I know from past experience where I've had work done, even with him, that costs. You know what I mean? That's actually the only place he makes money. Hardware makes you peanuts. You know, often he can't beat the online price, and he can only make an income from charging for his time, which he doesn't charge a great deal for. He's actually very reasonable. That's why I was using him originally. So from very reasonable to nothing, you know, there's no benefit to him. So when I do go out for a curry with him, I just want to, he wants my company. I get it. He doesn't want to talk shop. So ideally, I want to go when I've got no problems. It's just more often than not, I've got a problem. But in this instance,
oh, yeah,
totally, yeah. You bring it up, you need them, you bring it up. Can I get a mic check?
Yes, Neil, you're fine. Neil. You're sounding good.
Oh, you are going to talk to me then? You keep stucking me, Nathan.
I'm supposed to have all new data, so that means I should have no problem, and I should not be roboting.
You sound great.
Wonderful.
What's the last thing you said?
We've still got to get you a new phone, though, Neil, because your battery's terrible.
Yeah, but it's not, because I'm doing DoorDash and it's acting the same way. It's taking so long for shit to go through. So I think it's the phone. But anyway,
yeah,
your curry guy is ace. He helps you out. You're having a curry with him. You talk about shop, other things, but you always bring up shop. No. You got to get this thing functioning perfectly.
No. The reason he's doing the work for free during shop hours when he's in rotation and can slip it in is because he figured out I was a flat earther. Now, I can't remember exactly how I figured that out a couple of years ago, but he did. And then he's like, it was when this computer originally bust the previous computer. At that point, when I took it in, I'm like, this is bust. And I'm like, I'll substitute out the motherboard. I'll make it work. Don't worry about the cost. I'll get it working. I'm like, why are you so keen to help me for free? He's like, you're a flat earther. I'm like, yeah. It's like, you do that YouTube channel. I know Earth's flat too. I'll help you get your computer running. It's very important what you're doing on YouTube. I want to assist in that. So it's you don't worry about how much it's going to cost. I'll get it fixed. That was his attitude. Now, he couldn't. The RAM slots were all fucked up. But he managed to cobble it together in such a fashion that it still functioned. It was just god-awful. Now, god-awful for me is not god-awful for next man. So that computer still works. It was then, after this computer was bought, took back in, and I spent, I don't know, a couple of £100 on it, I think, to get it back to a not functional enough for me, but functional enough for a next man. And I gave it away. I gave it to OBE lines. So he now uses that computer to do his stream, mainly because I was irritated with watching him on his Mac, and the whole stream would lag. I'd be like, I want to hear what you got to say next, but all I'd be hearing is, this computer's taking a while to catch up. A bit like Tinfoil Hat Man yesterday. It's like, this stream runs perfectly with medium latency because I want the quality. Not low latency, but medium latency. And he's like, this stream's taking a long time to catch up. He said it about 20 times. I'm like, yes, just deal with it. There's a delay. But with him, with OBE lines, when he was Chronicles of the Unconvinced, he's changed his channel name since. it just bugged me. You know, I wanted to hear it, and you're just watching a stream buffer because his Mac's so slow. Now, since substituting out my old computer for his crap Mac, his stream now works perfectly because he's not actually got a great deal other than, you know, needing something relatively snappy. As in, it can't run 50 programs like I need it to do, but it can run one program really well. So when he's doing his stream, he's really happy with it. It works really well. He has had a new graphics card that I bought in it, but aside from that, it's working really well for him. But, you know, I know full well that in the reduced RAM spec and all the rest of it that it ended up being when it got sent to him, it just wasn't good enough for me. Because of all the crap that ends up getting up on screen and all the different programs that are ending up running. But yeah, it's a shame it's taken such a long time with this computer. But on the other hand, the alternative to buy something that I would have probably picked, I'd have probably never been happy with it because it would have always been noisy. And currently, as I sit here, it's absolutely silent. It makes not a sound, which of all the priorities for a computer, it's actually one of the highest priorities I have, that it doesn't make any noise. Because that irritates me, you know, just a little thing. But so the fact that it's taken a long time to get it to the point where it is now, and it works, and it's silent, you're like, actually, that's a really good result. I'm very happy. You know, it does everything I want it to do. It seems, up until this point, unreliable, but that will change. I'm sure it's getting there now that it's got a new GPU in it. Yeah, I'm a happy camper. Crashing in standby, who cares? Doesn't matter. I can restart the computer as long as it's not crashing under load.
Yeah, that is very weird.
So you're saying it's getting better all the time?
Yeah, I can tweak things. So, for example, what I need ideally to run the show with everything staying at the same clock speed. So the GPU, the RAM, the CPU, all running just flatlined, which is to say that they have got a bit more, but they could just running smoothly, like an engine running at a consistent revs. Yeah. That's good on the motorway. That's where it's working best, right? 70 miles an hour within one gear, not going up and down the revs, just steady revs. That's what you want from your computer. You just want every clock to be at steady state, not doing anything. And as the workload increases, PC doesn't care. Well, to do that, I need 140 watts. That's what the computer needs at the most stress that I can give it, depending on what I'm doing, on the CPU. Now, that produces too much heat. So then you've got to balance how much do I want to give it less voltage to reduce the heat so that I can get more efficiency out of the limited power I give it. Well, at one stage, I was having to limit it to under 100 watts. So nothing worked properly. It was really irritating. You'd load a program, it wouldn't load. Then you click it again, and then it would load, and then it would load twice. And then the computer would slow down. You're like, oh, this is getting annoying. It's a brand new computer. So it's just finding that balance. Well, at the moment, it's at 131 watts with 0.25 volt undervolt. Well, that might not mean anything to you, but it's just a balancing act to get the amount of power I need out of the computer without it overheating. Now, the GPU, on the other hand, as soon as I chucked it in, never really had to give it much thought. It just doesn't overheat. Now, the CPU definitely does because it's a 250 watt chip. Well, its replacement, because Paul was like, why don't you buy a newer version because it'll be more efficient? Well, the newer version wants 350 watts. You know, that's where its starting point is, you know, under a massive load, admittedly. So, yeah, I could probably, for a premium of about 450 quid, drop a 2 generations newer chip that will work on the motherboard. But I'll just end up tweaking that for 6 months, you know, because it'll be like, oh, I really need this one to produce 135 watts. It will give me, you know, I need 135 watts into it to get what I want out of it, but it's still producing too much heat. You know, it's got to be 125. So I'll just end up pissing around with a different one. But this one, being the top of the range chip at the time it came out, is as efficient as it can be in that generation. And it doesn't have million extra little cores that all draw power like the newer ones do. All they've done is given them extra E cores, which all draw more power. Now, short of shutting them off, which seems like a waste of money, what's the point? It's like, well, yeah, I could get maybe 10% more efficiency, but I don't need to. I've balanced it out enough so it doesn't overheat and it doesn't slow down or double load programs because it hasn't loaded quick enough, or stupid things like that. Anyway,
Yeah, I think that's enough computers for the pre-show, and we'll bore the hell out of people.
Yeah, people don't want to hear about this in the live show. I don't mind talking about it. It's not much to talk about anymore. I'm not constantly in front of it every night after night after night after night. So yesterday, everything, normal day, normal show, no crashes. Kids played on the computer games for a few hours. Wife watched a bit of crap on TV, or whatever they call TV these days, Netflix. And at one point, she turned the projector on, loaded up Netflix while iTunes was still playing, and the whole thing crashed. I'm like, that's not quite right. Again, went into the voltages for the CPU, turned it down one notch, or 0.05 millivolts. Fired the whole thing up again. Never happened since. You can't do that when the thing's nearly on fire. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. So you haven't been able to refine everything because you've been struggling with just outright crashes, haven't you? Blue screens and black screens and everything.
Yeah, because that was all RAM though. So what was happening previously with the old graphics card, the problem was simple. As soon as the case got hot, the RAM got hot. As soon as the RAM got hot, it went unstable and crashed. So no matter what you did with the old graphics card, it didn't matter if I was playing a game or otherwise, it always pulled over 150 watts on the graphics card. Even if I was just encoding something or just watching Netflix, it just wasn't efficient. That last range was very inefficient. So to get the same effective power and efficiency out of this GPU compared to the last range for the same performance, the previous range pulled 350 watts. This one pulls 170 to do the same work. You'd have to be a genius to figure out that doubling the amount of powering input's going to vastly increase the amount of heat output. And that's all that happened. I could sit here boiling. It would just cook me. But, that was just that particular range, 30 series range of GPUs. Some of them were pulling 600 watts. It was ludicrous. Anyway. I never ever intended to get this geeky about computers.
Yeah, right.
I didn't. I walked away from the opportunity to run
himself.
I had an opportunity to run my own computer shop. My parents made their living networking and selling computers to schools and home computers and computers. They had a computer shop. Well, when they retired, they offered it to all three of us. All three kids got offered the business, and we all turned it down. Why? Well, for the attitude my parents took towards computers at the end. We could kick them all in the air, was what my mother said as she left. She hated them, and they left, and they offered me, I remember it, right, they closed down, and they got oodles of really high-end computers, and they're like, do you want one? Nah, not really. I'm like, you should just have one. You've left home, you haven't got one, have a computer. Well, okay, fine. So I put this computer in a cupboard and just left it there. I had no use for it, I didn't care. And then went into work one day, and new guy starts, all enthusiastic about computers, starts babbling on about them and specs. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got that spec of computer in my cupboard. I don't even use it. And the guy was almost puked. Ralph, his name was. Absolutely horrified. Couldn't quite believe it. He's like, I must come round immediately and set your computer up. Well, fair enough. So he came round with a copy of AOL on CD, installed it onto the computer, and immediately set about instant messaging girls and asking what their names were under a fake name that he'd got set up of his own. I'm like, I don't like this. And he's like, yeah, you're anonymous. You can do whatever you like. I'm like, from this day forth, I will not be anonymous online because I want my personality or persona to match. In other words, I can be deviant if I've got a fake name. I can perceivably, although now people have realised better, can get away with stuff. Whereas if I put my name and the year of birth on my name, so it's not just any Nathan Oakley, there's plenty of Nathan Oakleys, but Nathan Oakley 1980, that makes me more accountable. In other words, if I'm flirting with a girl, as you, Ralph, in this scenario, is flirting with a girl, I want her to know it's me, so that potentially I can meet her. Because that's, that age, that was what my objective was. I was like in my late teens. So, that's all I was interested in. So I'm like, I don't want to be anonymous so I can ask her what she's wearing without, feeling embarrassed about it. If I want to ask her what she's wearing, I'll ask her, and I want her to know it's me asking her. So that's what my screen name became on AOL back in whatever it was, 1999, 1998, something like that. Anyway, that's what I did. Nathan Oakley 1980, and it's never changed. I'm like, I've had complete consistency throughout my internet history with that name, right up until introducing it as my YouTube channel name. And it's like, why? Well, because then I'm accountable. Can't get away with just bullshitting and lying and being a cheat and a charlatan and a scammer if you're out there and you are what you are. So again, sometimes people will be critical and say, "Oh, you're faking what you're doing." Now, don't get me wrong, I do over dramatize certain points to make them better points, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's not me. That might be my online persona, but it's still Nathan Oakley. But most of the people who got computers back when I was, like I say, looking at them, and Ralph introduced them to me in a way that I hadn't experienced them when my parents were selling them, was to cement how that type of personality has progressed through their internet career and become what we now fight as anti-flat earthers, trolls, right? Because people perceive that they can get away with being a different type of person online. Yeah, and that is true. You do find people have got a bit of a split personality, and you meet them in the reality of the real world, out in the air that we breathe and press the flesh, so to speak, and they're a completely different person.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many anti-flat earthers there are in, say, text chats, because at least 90% of them are just Zebra.
Just what?
Zebra, you come across Zebra, he's got accounts they call Zebra-4, Zebra-3, he's got an account called Geronimo, and there's a guy called GURVEY, and they're all asking exactly the same questions. How come flat earthers have never invented anything? You know, you get the idea. You can tell us him.
When you say it's him, how do you know it's not just some automated bot designed to spam questions out and someone's just...
Oh, yes. Well, that is the other option, of course, yes. But we just call him Zebra for short, me and Michael.
Well, it does help that he's got 22 accounts on my channel.
I hate that. It skews your stats. So when I do my intro, I say subscribe if you've not done so already. I mean it. Like, I don't want people with multiple accounts spamming you. Hello, Flatsword, by the way. Hello, Brian, by the way.
Hello.
How's it going? I haven't chatted to you for a while, Flatsword.
Yeah, it's nice to be on holiday. Get some time to actually join the show.
I mean,
yesterday.
No, I mean, how's your show going?
Oh, my show's brilliant. Growing really, really good.
Excellent.
Can't complain.
Good to hear it. Excellent, excellent. Hopefully we've not been too harsh when we've critiqued your various different interactions with the anti-flat earthers. Harsh of you, I mean.
Nonsense.
I actually welcome criticism. You know me.
I'm glad you've said it. I echoed those sentiments when we've been doing it and said, no, he absolutely relishes these criticisms and wants to grow as a debater in this subject matter. Therefore, criticism is the only way you're going to get there. And that was the sentiment I put across.
I mean, that's how I thrive. I mean, how else are we going to grow and progress if we're not going to learn from our mistakes and what we can get better with?
That's why we like you. Well, at least that's why I like you. Because that's the exact attitude that people like myself, Anthony Riley, and most of the panel take. Which is to say, and Brian was discussing this on yesterday's show, right, Brian? You're like, the anti-flat earthers will cherry pick / Texas sharpshoot fallacy their way through their evidence presentation, whereas we'll present anything we've got. This is what I got today. And then gives the anti-flat earthers the opportunity to jump on it back in the day, 2016-ish, to go, there's the Earth curve, look, blocking that bit of the island, or whatever they're going to claim. Whereas you were pointing out that what they will present would never, ever constitute anything other than what they're going to affirm their belief with.
Hey, everyone. Yeah, they're always doing that. We've always presented everything. Now, in today's world, what I didn't say yesterday is, in today's world, like with tinfoil and that, I would say not to present anything that they're going to try and jump on, simply because we know it's not our curve, right? We're fully aware of that, and it's only just going to waste time them finding one thing in a video or one thing in an observation that from someone that they can latch onto, ignore the rest of the video or the presentation or whatever, and just jump on that 100, 200 of them, 300 of them jump on that and hold on to that, because addressing the rest of the video is going to kill them. So they jump on this thing to deny the video and, decry what's after being shown. So if I had seen Tinfoil's presentation yesterday, for instance, I would have said, no, take that out, take that out, take that out, take that out. Just throw this, and this, and never mind all that other stuff. Because they are just going to jump onto anything they can to either try and annoy the person who's made it and deny what they've shown, or to completely hand wave away all the stuff that kills them and just latch onto some stupid thing that doesn't, even if it's just a temporary thing, to latch onto it just for that, just while the presentation or video is fresh, and then latch onto that until the video gets, or presentation takes a few days, is a few days old, and they all disappear and ignore it ever happened. Like, Ruhif is jumping on the fact, for instance, Ruhif is jumping on the fact that in Tinfoil's first presentation, his lens was at 1 meter, but he went and showed the coordinates when he was on his phone, and he was away from where he took the coordinates when he was photographing his tripod and lens, and the coordinates he has is more than 1 meter. So Ruhif is jumping on that, even though his lens is at 1 meter.
How much more than 1 meter? How much more than 1 meter? Because what he's saying is he's got the phone.
Meters.
Let me just summarise.
2 meters. The phone was at 2 meters.
So he's saying he's up the beach, filming back at the telescope's position, and he's an extra meter higher because he's further at the beach, looking back at the position the telescope's up at. Therefore, what's the conclusion that Ruhif's drawn from this?
Well, see, Ruhif is using that extra meter from where he took his coordinates. That with the nonsense he's trying to pull is using below sea level meters to try and come up with 6 or 7 meters, which would somehow explain the observation.
I see.
Do you know what I mean? So this is the kind of nonsense you're dealing with. You have to give them as little as possible and give them only the most devastating parts and leave them squirm after that. Because all they're going to do is latch on to something stupid just like that, like Ruhif did. Ruhif, when I said to him, did you see, I think it was Tinfoil's presentation from 2 weeks ago, where and the week before, where his coordinates and his lens was at the same place. So he made sure they were both at 0 elevation. And he said, oh, I never watched them. I didn't bother watching them because you all lied about his lens being at 1 meter. When the truth was, no one lied about it. His lens was at 1 meter. It was shown in the video, but he took his coordinates with his phone when he was photographing his lens back towards the shore. So he got 2 meters with his phone. And do you know what I mean? Now, Tinfoil's a lawyer. You were all lawyers. This is why. So in today's world, I'd take all of that out, all of it. I give money the bare basics, the most devastating stuff and bare basics. I give them nothing that they can latch onto to try and character assassinate you or ignore the presentation. Nothing. That's what they deserve. But they spent years presenting nothing but the bare basics to us. You couldn't even hardly get the coordinates off them, or an elevation height. They just wouldn't even give you that. En masse. Like, I remember there was some BS observation came out. But that's just that. Mom was saying, I remember this happening loads of times. And I say, what's the elevation? Way back 2016, 2017. What's the camera height? None of your business. They wouldn't give you it. Why? Because they knew it was a problem. Do you know what I mean? So they wouldn't give you nothing. At least we don't have to do that. We can give them the bare basics and give them a camera height and a lens height elevation. And all they got is that. They got nothing then. As soon as you give them anything that they can latch onto, that allows them to hand wave away everything else or to make someone into a lawyer, and that's what they latch onto. So unfortunately, we should be doing now what they used to do. With the exception of we don't lie about it. We have all the information there, but we just don't give it to them until they go looking for
it. But what I've seen lately, they trying to latch onto our kind of channels because they need us. So they're trying to get our attention, and if we're not, we're just ignoring them, then they're having a tantrum and just saying we're dishonest and ignoring them. They can't stand being ignored.
Yep, Star Patrol. Star Patrol.
Well, yeah, it's true though. But the problem is that they all do have the impression that they are somehow important and their opinions matter. Most of them have this impression that they are. Like I've said it to them, like, you know, you're not anyone. Like I don't have to address you at all. Do you know what I mean? Like who are you that I should have to address? And they have no. Someone commenting, you don't seem to be replying. You're ignoring my comment. Yeah, well, I'm ignoring you. You don't matter to me. Who are you that I should have to address? And they don't know how to handle that. Because in their own head, they're important and you should be addressing them because they're superior to you in their own head. When they just, and it's just, and all it is just some idiot who I'm not responding to because he doesn't even understand the video, who's trying to troll me. It's like, you're not anyone. Why should I care about what you, why would anyone waste their time responding to you? That's just an idiot. Your question is idiotic. Why would anyone care? Who are you that anyone should address? And they don't know what to do then.
Hey. And they show because it would damn them. And they would have, oh.
You robot, Neil. Do you want to sort your data rate out? Bloody hell.
Yeah,
that was well said, Brian.
Neil, why don't you get hold of the satellite technicians and ask why you got no coverage, dude?
That brand new data.
The thing is, these nameless, faceless troll bots that spam the same question over and over again, and even if you do respond to them, Brian, which I've done, I know the troll accounts that you're referring to, they just ignore you. They just parrot it again. If you give a good enough response that somebody else responds to, they'll delete their comment and just repost the same comment so that your response gets deleted.
What a lot of them will do is they'll come at you with nonsense. And when it goes nowhere, where you either take it apart, right, over the course of 3 or 4 responses, right, or you show it to be wholly incorrect, or you show that their logic is incorrect, or they didn't understand something, what they do is they create a whole new comment thread. And it'll either be, if you absolutely decimated them, it won't be on the same thing. It'll either be an attack on you or something else. But this is what they do, right? If it's a situation where you've debunked their nonsense that they're putting into a comment, and like you've replied 2 or 3 times to them, and they've replied back 2 or 3 times. What they do then is they write a comment and start with the same thing again. You know, this kind of nonsense, because they've lost, but they won't let it go. Do you know what I mean? Or they'll start with, I've had them do everything. Literally anything, any amount of intellectual dishonesty. We've all addressed and dealt with it. There's just pathetic yes. Some of the stuff they do. But they do it. You know, it's annoying, but it can be annoying, but at this stage I laugh at it because any normal person who's literally just looking to see what's going on here and read some of that in the comments underneath one of our videos, they know what's going on. They're like, this person's just, you know, but what they want to do is put in a fresh comment, start a fresh thread, and hope that you don't see it, or you're too bored of responding to the person to respond to them. And so someone new comes in and they read the first couple of comments and they go, oh, he didn't even respond to this, so maybe this guy is right. This other baller, like maybe this other guy who's saying something about his video was right. And it's like if they went down 20 comments, they see the exact same guy with the exact same comment getting torn apart. So I always make a point of responding, and I make a point of going back sometimes when I write in something devastating to someone who's been trying pushing their luck. And I don't get a response, I make a point of going back a couple of days later. And the reason I do is because what a lot of them do is they wait for you to disappear and get lost in comments to other responses to other people. And then they'll come back and write in a reply, and they may not even press reply. They'll just write in a reply, and anyone who doesn't know any better will read down through the thread, and the last comment on the thread will be theirs and make it look like they had a point or one. So that's what they do. So I go back in 2 and sometimes 3 days later, when it's specific people who I know when I know who I'm dealing with. I don't have to know them, but I know the sneakiness they're using, and I recognise their MO. I'll go back in a couple of days later, and I often find 50% of the time I'll find a comment from that person, and they didn't even press on my comment to reply to it. They just write a reply underneath that, so I don't get notification. And anyone reading it makes it look like they had a point, and I'll reply to it there and then, and I point out that they didn't press on reply. They didn't want me to see the comment, and I had them by the testicles basically. But that's what they do.
Kind of like that saying.
It's about the general public. Sorry, Nathan. Is that you?
Yeah, it is like that's who their audience is, so to say. But it's like that saying, you're only known as your last like success or something like that, right? So it's like you're only known for like the last comment posted.
Yeah, they believe that getting the last word means that for the average lazy Joe that comes to the comments section, they see a point being made by them, you responding next comment, a whole thread of nonsense that doesn't have anything to do with that rebuttal, and then them getting the last word saying, see, he wasn't able to respond to this non sequitur point that I put in the middle of this long thread of garbage that no one's going to read. Now, if it is the case that you've managed to somehow get the upper hand in that particular comment section, they'll just delete the thread, as Brian says, and just start it again. And if you repeat it and ask them, why is it that you've completely ignored this response that I've given you now 5 times? They'll delete that. And just repost the same comment. Now, this happens not just with trolls, it happens with real individuals. A couple of cases in point. One would be conspiracy cats. Over 100 repetitions in comment sections in regards to gas pressure requiring containment. 100 repetitions. McToon, my comment section again, 87 renditions of his requirement for an elevation angle to be taken from a flat earth for his challenge. 87. I pointed out that he needed a flat earth for the angle, and he hand-waved it 87 times before getting bored and giving up. But it didn't seem to matter how many times I put it to him that he required a flat plane. He still came back and rinsed and repeated that he's got a challenge out. Like he was impervious to the fact his challenge required a flat earth. He was, to the tune of 87 renditions of it. Or 100 in the case of conspiracy cats, 100 plus.
So sometimes I'll even ask them, are you ready to start a new trade yet? Do you know what I mean? Because I know what they're at. Sometimes I'll meet them before they do it, you know, that kind of way. Because that's what they all do. A lot of them don't get a chance to delete their comment. I don't think they can delete it away from me seeing it, because I've yet to find any of them being able to delete their comments when, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there, but they do start new threads, and I've even gotten to the point of saying to them, like, I'm so used to it, I've such experience dealing with them. It's like, so let me know when you want to start a new thread. You know what I mean? Because I know what they're going to do, because they've got nothing in this trade. They've got nothing. They're looking bad. Because what a lot of them do, they come at, for most normal everyday people who would read their comment. Their comments are always convoluted and complicated, and they'll throw in maths and this, that, and everything. And it's all fluff to make them appear like they're an intellectual superior. And I might only have to reply back with a line or two, or even just a couple of words. And, but for someone else who's not used to them and doesn't understand them, they'll think, wow, this guy must be well educated, he knows his stuff, not realizing that the person is just adding in, they have 2 or 3 paragraphs of nonsense instead of addressing and the only addressal of a point, it might be one little tiny thing in there, and it's a half a hand wave. Do you know what I mean? So, but most people can get very intimidated by that intellectually. Not maybe most people, but there is a lot of people out there who go, oh, I don't know anything about that. This fella must really know. This person must really know what they're talking about. And you know, and I know, we know that they're just, sorry for language, but BSers. You know what I mean? They're just adding in as much nonsense as possible to make it seem like they have some kind of intellectual authority here. When they don't, they have nothing. They just don't have an argument. You know what I mean? And their reply is 4 paragraphs of nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, Flatside.
Yeah, but all they ever do is just white knight for each other. Then they claim, well, I got a white knight for me, so therefore I claim victory. That's about it.
Yeah, that's
And
another
to
thing
add
to
to
go with
that-
that. Where sorry, go on, just.
I'll just go really quick just to add to what you said, because I was on the other side of the fence, right? When I came to FE, all these other like oppositions just made it more confusing as to what's going on. And even before FE, when I was looking into like GMOs and stuff like that, all these other comments in the comment section just made it more confusing. Like, what is the truth? And then there's an even step down from that is like some people just don't even bother going looking into it. Just walk away confused, or just stick with what's the what's the mainstream rhetoric, right? Because they don't know about it and they don't want to look into it. So they just appeal to the mainstream, so to say. That's it.
But yeah, well, see, sorry, you finished?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you still had a couple of things to say, and I stepped on them. Yeah, well, what they do, just like what Flatside said, and what you said. First of all, what Roger said, they try and confuse the matter as much as possible. So somebody who comes in and looks at the thread after watching the video starts doubting the video and the videographer, right? So you're going to go, oh, someone goes, oh, I don't know about this. This person seems to know what they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. So, or they're addressing something that has nothing to do with the video, and it's something from a previous video, or it's a personal attack on you to make it seem like, remember that thing you got wrong, and you would proving yourself outright to be 100% correct about this other thing. Do you know what I mean? Or this other thing might just be a straw man they're making up that you never even, about an argument you never even made, right? So it's all about misdirection and confusion for the general public, right? And character assassination of the videographer of the flat earther. But then you have the situation like Flatsway's talking about. And I've had this, I don't know how many times I do experience this, where they're proven completely wrong in a trade. And you have loads of other ballers coming in, and some of them have their own extra sock accounts. And they're coming in and they're agreeing with the person and saying you're wrong. So it's like a consensus thing. When anyone who understands what's after being written on the page would go, no, this person is wrong. This baller is wrong. But they are coming in and getting they're going onto their different stock accounts and getting their friends, because it's not always the same person, but they're doing it as well, getting their friends to come in and white knight for them and talk about how you're wrong. So anybody who comes in who doesn't know any different and just reads a comment, any everyday person, is.
Good morning.
Hola.
Good morning. Good to have you all. Welcome.
Hello.
Good to be here. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
If you're using VR, probably.
One more time.
Is that the place? Is that the place where they take Hell's Angles from?
Hell's Angles? Yeah.
He said if you're using VR.
VR to go to the centre. Oh, I see. No,
VR to see the curvature. If you're using VR, you can see it. That's
whatever, man. Whatever you wish you can have in VR.
You want to travel to the centre of a molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, then you can in VR. Hey, Neil.
I find it very perplexing that the Globers will still want to claim measurements of elevation angles, that they have to actually go to a centre of a molten iron core to get it.
Well, yeah, they can't get an elevation angle measurement from a molten iron core. You're talking about acquisition of a plane of reference. Well, it's got to be referenceable in order to measure from it and refer to it. So in terms of their transposition of an angle only capable of measurement from a flat plane, that is a transposition to the centre of Earth as opposed to a measurement from the centre of Earth. You can't measure from the centre of Earth. There is no centre of Earth. Even if there was, you couldn't measure from it. Occasionally you'll hear us get into the wrangle dangle of from and to when we're referencing elevation angles. Now, getting an angle from a curve isn't possible. Drawing a tangent to a curve and implying that that tangent to an inferred sphere that you're not measuring when you derive a plane of reference is a measurement of a sphere. It isn't. When you're actually measuring the stars and taking an angle to them, your measurement is with respect to a plane of reference. That means Earth's flat. That's how you're measuring it. Speaking of which, I had a little moment this morning in terms of thinking about the consequences of a repositioning by other people in Flat Earth. So although I'm not particularly genned up on what they mean by this terminology, I can infer what they mean from the terminology and the implications of the use of the terminology. That terminology being true Earth. Now maybe someone will fill me in after this little discussion about what that actually means, but my automatic assumption would be that the words Flat Earth are tarnished, and in order to negate that dirt, a remarketing, perhaps the word repackaging, of what is already being offered up for sale currently under the guise of Flat Earth would be better served under a title that didn't have that tarnish, and therefore True Earth is born, and you can market things under that label rather than Flat Earth. Now that is brilliant news, because previously, literally in the last couple of days, I was contemplating how do we detach ourselves from these individuals, the conspiracy aspects of Flat Earth. The route into Flat Earth, admittedly, we all took it and it was all conspiratard nonsense. We all had to walk the path. Now we've walked it, we can look back on it with reflection and hindsight and say that that path is tarnished, it's full of nonsense. But there is a market for the tarnish and the nonsense that was on the path, and it's now got a title, True Earth. Good. Because we as Flat Earthers are now detached from them without us having to do anything. However, there is still also the inference that the dirty title of just Flat Earth is something that we should stick by. Well, not necessarily. Doesn't mean we can't also do the same. In fact, kudos to you. Remarketing was a very wise choice. And I suggest that we also remarket to a certain extent. And that is to say that measured Flat Earth would be our hashtag moniker, whatever you want to call it. Because for me, when we describe something with a hashtag, or for them, True Earth, hashtag True Earth, it should have some meaning, some impact, some relevance. Or, if you're on the opposite side of our argument, something to get your teeth into and oppose. Measured Flat Earth as a hashtag works beautifully, in my humble opinion. I'd like to know yours. Anybody got a comment?
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. I switched phones with my wife, so is it any better?
Yeah. All good.
I disagree. First of all, why they started calling themselves True Earthers was because Bev started holding them to task on geometric issues. So they call themselves True Earthers because they felt calling themselves Flat Earthers meant that the whole world had to be a flat plane to describe it as flat. They didn't realize they were just, this is what we're dealing with. These people didn't realize they were just describing the Earth as flat. Do you know what I mean? David Weiss and all of them. They didn't even realize you were just describing it that way. Do you know what I mean? But because Bev asked them a few questions, was asking questions of these people, and they knew they couldn't answer Bev's questions, so they went off and changed it to True Earth, which is pathetic. Now, the term measured flat, I mean, Bev and people like Bev could attack that in a moment, geometrically, and point out, well, if it's measured flat, how come there's elevation changes? And with most people, then you're getting into the wrangle, not with me or maybe some of the other people on the panel, but with a lot of other people. They're meeting a block wall of, if it's measured flat, how come there's elevation changes? And straight away, you're going to fall into a geometric argument about how it's flat when it's not.
I've got to stop you. That seems like a comical response. Right, now, I admit we were commenting on this particular response in respect to Ruhif and him decrying the height above sea level that the telescope Mr. Tinfoil Hatman is using. Is that? Can you remember the response? We laughed at Ruhif with that in mind.
Are you talking about what we're talking about earlier or recently? In recent times?
Talking about heights above sea level.
Yeah. heights above sea level, yeah.
Right. So elevation changes, you say?
Yeah, but the point is that saying measured flat, it just doesn't hashtag measured flat. I just wouldn't go with that because it can be attacked. I would go with hashtag flat Noah.
How can it be attacked if it's measured flat?
I
heard what you said, but I think that's silly.
Look, I raise my concerns. I leave you at it. Do what you want.
Well, they measure, the ballers measure it the same way. It's in their mathematics as how they measure it and how they calculate it. Bev's train wreck argument was to say because there are elevation changes, the horizontal flat plane that you measure those elevation changes is not a horizontal flat plane.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, John. That was the response I was looking for. You're going to tell me it's not
measured from flat would be better.
It's convoluted. You think there's ambiguity because Bev is suggesting that because there are deviations with respect to a horizontal that's flat plane, he can describe the deviations from the flat reference plane Earth must be to describe those differences in heights, therefore not flat. That means I should change a perfectly outstanding title from Measured Flat Earth to what? It is.
Well,
I don't accept Bev's objection in any way, shape, or form.
I think the issue comes from.
Hold on.
I think the issue comes from that people are being too nitpicky on the word topography. So they're trying to actually scattergun the argument and try and say, well, because you say it's flat, they want you to think of a perfectly smooth surface. But no one actually thinks that. So they're trying to run off of that argument and so say, but you see, because we see topography, so therefore it can't be flat. Without understanding the flat is actually just the foundation. That's all it is.
It seems like a silly argument. I don't care. No offense, Bev. I mean, if you've duped people into believing that this is a coherent argument and that it's worthwhile of their time, then good for you. But it isn't.
Right. It's like if toast is brown and I made toast and it was black, therefore toast does not exist.
It's a stupid argument.
I'm hearing a connection between sea level and elevation.
Yeah. That's what you'll be referencing. Earth as a horizontal plane of reference to tell you how high or low something is with respect to that horizontal plane of reference that Earth must be to even give you the capability of describing elevation changes. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. And the measurement I'm implying with hashtag measured flat Earth is also a prerequisite for Bev's argument.
Exactly. And we can't help it that they tarnished it. Sorry.
Who tarnished it? It was tarnished when we found our way to flat Earth because the roads into flat Earth were of a conspiratard nature. Now, when you say, I don't know who paved the roads. Do you? Does it matter?
I'm talking about the flat earthers that tarnished it with their nonsense.
Who are they?
Those that call it true earth, the Etherites. They've tarnished it and gave flat earth a bad name. Now, we're a joke right now. They go to these shows and we become a joke. Look at that video you did the other day.
I don't care anymore. Now they've retitled themselves. I'm more than happy. It's like when I was saying we must divorce ourselves from them. But I'm then saying, what are we going to do about the fact we've still got the same surname? That's a bit of a problem, isn't it? We're still called Flat Earth as well. I'm still happy to call myself a Flat Earther because Earth's flat.
Yeah, remember, just because they so-called excommunicated us, we should be celebrating this. It means we're not part of their cult.
Right. So we celebrate.
But that's what they say affects us, though.
Hold on, let's react to Flatsoid's comment. Yeah, exactly. We were discussing excommunication yesterday, or more specifically, Tinfoil Hatman was describing his excommunication from the Jehovah's Witness cult. Now, that excommunication seemed very detrimental at the time to him and anybody who's leaving Scientology or any of the cult. But for us, or me specifically, I've seen the perceived advantage of having people who are with the same surname as us, Flat Earth being that metaphorical surname. They have, of their own volition, changed their surname, metaphorically, from Flat Earth to True Earth. Good. Alrighty then.
Yeah, but we're still attached. Sorry, Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, but the problem is, see, this is the problem. I'm going to lay it out, Nathan, and I'm sorry you have to do this, but I have to. Right? The problem is they weren't addressed early enough, and they were allowed to grow. We allowed them to grow when we shouldn't have allowed them to grow. And now they have a much bigger, they already had a bigger base than us. Now they have a much, much bigger base than us.
Well, now they've had kids.
That shouldn't have happened.
In this metaphor, they've had kids. I'm trying to segue onto the video that we're going to be covering. So the problem is that if you remain in the conspiratorial realm of Flat Earth, in quotes, and therefore feel that there is a necessity to address it, you can only see that as a problem for the people who are taking the information and regurgitating it, which is the segue to today's video. So in this instance, we've covered some of this in the pre-show already, but what you end up with is people that don't actually have a very high standard of evidence when they're presenting it to other people. They have a base understanding of heliocentrism and why it may not work, although often you'll find that their descriptions of why it doesn't work aren't necessarily the reasons it doesn't work, but that's a different issue. Moreover, there'll be baseless assertions made about Flat Earth and what it is, the sun and moon and what they are, the stars, what they are, how the mapping works potentially, all sorts of other claims that people can't validate when they assert that Earth is flat. And they will try and attempt to back their claim that Earth is flat, their belief in Earth being flat, with a load of conspiratorial nonsense as a standard. So this video is by GURVEY. Hope I'm saying your name right, my friend. But as always, let this person know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, help this person in the algorithm, so that hopefully, were they to make a response, they would put the same algorithmic love our way. As in, they'd put a link to my video when they tell us how wrong we are. Now, in the pre-show, I say how wrong they are. I should just round out that call to action while people actually do exactly that. So, yeah, click on the link. There's one going by in the info box now. Let him know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And, yeah, give him a like. Do whatever you need to do to not get your comment deleted and indicate that we have responded to his video. And, yeah, hopefully he'll be grateful that we've sent our meager audience to his 100,000+ subscriber channel. I'm sure he'd be grateful. All YouTubers are grateful, even if they've got 1 million subscribers, of algorithmic love that we are sending his way. So that's hopefully a long enough call to action to get a few of you to actually go over there and write a comment and come back. And we'll continue with the video. So, yes, this instance isn't where we'll be criticising the normie. So this guy, Sar, said the same in the pre-show, but it sounds a bit more like a pronoun, so I'm just going to call him Normie. So Normie here has perfectly reasonable criticisms for the perceived flat earther who's offering up his comments. And so far what we've had is, why do you perceive the moon landings to not be real? And we've had the moon isn't real. It's a non-physical entity by claim of what I think is a flat earther. We don't know yet. But these are the metaphorical children of the nonsense that comes from a road that's riddled with feast of nonsense garbage for people who are on our perceived side to regurgitate out to the masses, only for those masses to become this guy on this show, talking to this normie. And you can hear for yourselves the reactions. We're going to respond to it now.
Okay, it's
right, but that's because it's reflecting
exactly
the light from the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're standing on it, yeah. So
he hasn't addressed that, but we may as well. So specular reflections debunk the notion of having a reflection of the moon from the sun in terms of how the reflections would actually function in terms of the uniform light that it provides. You wouldn't get that based on what they say the moon is and how specular reflections work. Now, while I'm not going to go into a in-depth description of specular reflections here, that would be the overcome for that discussion point. It just hasn't been overcome by the flat earther.
If we're here on Earth, okay,
right,
look at the moon, it's glowing. Wouldn't you think that when you're standing on it, it would also be glowing? Make it make sense.
Did the flat earther,
in what
flat earther say that?
The person that was just speaking literally as I paused when you started talking, that was the flat earther. I think. He hasn't declared himself that. He's just declared that the moon landings didn't happen because the moon isn't real, and then started to ask questions now. He was making declarative statements about how Earth isn't heliocentric and it's just a model, but almost reasonable. Now it's moving on to him asking questions of his opponent in terms of making it make sense, as he phrased it. That's the flat earther.
He said the moon was not physical.
Yes, I covered that. Was there anything else, John?
I was just trying to distinguish by their voices which one was which.
Okay. The one with better sound is the flat earther. The one with the echo isn't.
So, but what do you mean glowing?
He's non-flat earth.
So wouldn't it be bright when you stand on it? Why is it dull? Why is it when you look up from the earth?
But I'm no scientist, so I can't give you that answer.
But just try and make it make sense.
Why would you need to be a scientist to have an answer for this? I mean, more...
What has science got to do with it, though?
Nothing. But it's rhetoric. It's rhetoric that he needs here, not science. You know, he needs a good understanding of his own globe earth rhetoric. He just doesn't have it. So his declaration that I'm not a scientist is one of those cop-outs. Because science to him means an understanding of a subject matter. Because that's what he's been convinced in his latter years after school, that that's what science is. So because he doesn't know the answer to the question, because he's not schooled or versed in heliocentrism, his declarative statement thereafter is, I'm not a scientist. Because what, knowing about the answer would make you a scientist? Yeah, in his mind, yeah. And like we've seen on many previous shows, knowing the answers to complicated stuff makes you a scientist in the mind's eye of many people. It isn't, but that's what people will think. And the controverse, or the contrapositive of that is him thinking not knowing is not being a scientist.
Makes sense. Just like use like simple logic. If there's something shiny in the distance, yeah?
Right.
And it's shining in the distance, and you go to it close and you touch it and it's no longer shiny. Why is that? Surely it'll be shiny no matter where you are, what distance, right?
Right. But
yeah.
I mean, I don't even have to critique that. That's a crap argument.
Wouldn't it depend on what side of the moon that you land on?
So we only see one side of the moon. We've never seen the dark side of the moon. The other side.
The dark side? If we've never seen it, why can you imply that we even have a dark side to it, or that it's got three-dimensionality, have sides? None of these things are validated.
The moon always goes to the same place.
It doesn't rotate.
It does rotate, but it's in what's called a...
Does it? The moon rotates now. I mean, you could infer that it has a movement through libration, but that's about as much as you can give me. Eli.
Yeah, but how are you going to go land on this moon? What are you going to have to do to get there?
Travel through a sky vacuum. Violation of the second law of thermodynamics, something that definitely doesn't exist. The sky is not a vacuum.
Geosynchronous lock with the Earth.
One more time.
So everything that they're going to discuss after this point is now moot.
Absolutely.
Correct. That ends it all.
Yep. Sky is not a vacuum. It's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics to assert that there is an area of volume above our head with the gas that we are breathing not filling it. Gas-filled space.
That's what they call it. Geosynchronous. Geo for rock and synchronized for synchronized. Yeah, so we only ever see one side. We only ever land on one side of the moon. So they say.
Right, okay.
So it would make sense. So like the reason why it's not global.
To the guy with better sound, I take it all back because he dropped in a disclaimer. So they say is enough to get a passing grade here, isn't it? Because he's now no longer saying you can land on the other side of the moon. By adding "so they say" is enough for me to take the inference that I in his shoes, I am detailing the rhetoric of the globe Earth. So they say, yeah. So you get a pass, take it all back.
When they land on it, it's because they're on the other side, but they don't go to the other side.
So the moon. So because you've proposed this now, you've said that the moon is plasma. When you say it's plasma, what is that?
So what I mean is that it's not a physical thing. It's not a rock in space that we can go and land on.
Yeah.
Plasma is physical.
What? Moon's plasma now. Okay, why? Based on what evidence? This is the crap that we're going to have to defend if we're true earthers. Or whatever he is.
You see, this is the issue that they have.
Refracted, then flatsoid.
How can you say plasma isn't physical? It is definitely physical. That's the dumbest argument I think I've heard so far.
Go ahead, flatsoid.
You see, this is the issue they have. The globe sits exactly the same problem. They make claims that they aren't able to validate. So now the true earthers make claims as well. They might as well just be globers.
Well, they're walking down the same path of deception, or walking a group that follow them down a similar path of deception, using the same tricks.
Well, they don't know how to debate because You can't make claims in a debate about something you don't know. That's just ridiculous. To say that the moon is plasma, that comes from this physicist saying that back in the 50s, right? So that's where that nonsense comes from. Now, no one ever proved it was or wasn't or what it was. You can't just, why make a claim about something you don't know about? Just, I have no idea. You know what I mean? That's all you need to say. You don't need to go into it's plasma, and then make the second mistake of saying plasma is not physical. It's like, plasma is physical. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do that? And this is what's wrong. You have a load of people out there listening to the wrong people and going into debates and things like that. And talking to the people around them, their family and friends, and saying the moon is plasma, as if, like, what evidence have you got for that? Because whatever evidence, come on, finish.
No, we'll always have something to argue about when rhetoric is more important than pointing out fallacious reasoning within your own story.
Yeah, well, I don't see why you need to replace their claims with more claims, though.
You don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't. That's like saying, I don't know why they need to come to conclusions fallaciously. It's an equally valid statement.
Well, disproving
actually, I think it's a more valid statement.
Disproving of any statement that's a claim doesn't require you to offer up any alternative ever. You can just pummel the claim. But this guy's taking various claims of heliocentrism that he's got a vague grasp of, and then offering up a speculation in flat Earth as a rebuttal to that claim that he postulated. In other words, it wasn't being put to him by this guy.
So us on the Earth are on a firmament. Okay, like so we said, we have a firmament.
I'm nearly at the red flag stage.
You have a firmament.
I'm nearly at the red flag stage.
Before I continue, I just find it crazy that if I tell you that we're on a...
Here it comes. You haven't got an open enough mind. This is what he's been trained to do.
Planet that spins at 20,000 miles per hour. That road that orbits the sun at, I think, 167 miles per hour. And the sun itself is shooting...
All of this is your claim. Why are you laying this out to him?
Through the universe at 500,000 miles an hour. Moving away from the center as per...
See, what this is called in sales is an agreement ladder. Yeah? So what you do, if you want someone to purchase something, is you ascertain what their needs are and then repeat them back to them so that they can nod in agreement, so that when you say, so you're going to go and buy this then, let's go to the till, they will carry on nodding along. That's the point of agreement ladder. What in this setup psychologically is happening? Well, based on how this flat earther's been trained, he's now taking his opponent through an agreement ladder of heliocentrism. That's what's happening.
Per the Big Bang Theory.
At the center of the what?
Hold
the
on.
Universe.
There is no center of the universe.
No.
Go on.
Hold on. It seems like I don't mean it to sound proudful, but it seems like everybody in this, like flat earth debate, flatzoid, quantum eraser, seems like we're the only ones that have grown past the feast of nonsense. And it's getting irritating. What are we, like the lone star here? Is everybody just going in a time machine and going backwards? This is ridiculous.
Encourage my audience to smash the share button, Neil. Go on, do it.
Hit the share button.
Thanks, Neil.
Nathan, just on the open, sorry.
I was just thanking Neil for his high level of enthusiasm. I was hoping he would instill the same passion into a call to action for the sharing of this show. We know, what are we?
Share button,
wasting our time?
We're so held back that we can't even get people on our show. The only way it grows is if you hit that share button. Share.
That's what I was hoping for. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I stepped in a bit early. See this thing about open-mindedness. That has been said to me by the Globers time after time after time after time. they've accused me of not being open-minded when I'm not accepting their complete and utter horse manure. So that comes from them as well. I've gotten that from them, and I've often read and heard them say flat earthers can't think in 3 dimensions. They're all 2-dimensional, implying that we're not open-minded. Right? So the nonsense when David Weissens them says to a glober, you're not open-minded, or tell someone you need to be open-minded, the ballers say the exact same rubbish. That's how they're trying to sell. They're both trying to sell the same carton of rubbish to you. But just titled differently. So that you're not open-minded thing, that is a baller trick as well.
No, there is, and that's what we're.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
There can't be a center of the universe.
No. That's the heliocentric model. So
no, the center of the solar system.
No. So our solar system is the Milky Way. That has all 9 of our planets. That's our solar system, and our solar system.
You can't say that.
Yeah, you got to pepper it with disclaimers. You know, you've done it once, but that's not enough. So they say. I mean, I don't mind if you use the same term. So they say, or they say we are in a, you know, those sorts of disclaimers are required because, like I say, you're just building an agreement ladder of heliocentrism at the moment.
The center of the universe. We don't know where the sides of the universe
the Milky
are.
Way. So basically, the Big Bang theory, suggests that we start from a single entity.
Yes,
and everything's
singularity
going outwards. So there has to be a center. Everything's going outwards.
Which is where?
I don't know where it is. I don't believe in that model
knows where it is.
No, but that is the model. So I don't believe in that model, but that's what they say. So the sun and everything is going away from the center. We're expanding.
If you don't believe in the model, and you don't believe in the supposition, and your opponent doesn't even agree that the heliocentric supposition as you've laid it down on his behalf is right, you're on a hiding to nothing here. Not only does your opponent, this guy, not know what you're talking about, he doesn't agree with how you're detailing his belief. Just don't do it. Just don't detail other people's beliefs. Let them do it.
Constantly expanding.
You're right.
Outwards.
But apparently it's expanding and then it's shrinking, then expanding and shrinking.
Who says that?
All you're doing is giving this guy a rudimentary lesson in heliocentrism at the moment. That's all that's happening.
That's the model that I've seen.
I don't believe in any of that stuff anyways. It just doesn't make sense. But as I was saying,
all right,
so
many questions.
When I'm telling you guys, I feel like I'm stealing the show today.
No, it's fine because this is.
I've got someone in the comments saying Jesse needs to read a little more. So, and Jesse needs cancelling or counselling. I don't know which one. Maybe both. Maybe both.
Jesse needs both.
Like, I just find it crazy that, like I said, I'll tell you that the Earth is spinning at 20,000 miles per hour at the equator only.
Right.
No, it isn't. We'd notice their claim of Coriolis effect if that was the case. We don't. It isn't. Again, you're postulating their claims on their behalf. I don't know why.
Right.
And at the same time, it's orbiting the sun at 167,000 miles per hour, and the sun itself is shooting for the galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. But when you look up in the night sky,
flat Earthers, go on, whoever that was.
I was going to say you can't stand on the equator. You can only measure an angle and then derive the equator, but the angle is measured from a flat plane.
Right. To say you stand on the equator is a reification fallacy. And the reification is of the globe Earth that you're implying if you are of that nature. And your reification comes from a measurement. That measurement's the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris. Therefore, it's only an inferred position when described as an equator. The equator itself isn't some physical location. There's no line on the ground. But you can infer the equator by way of measurement of a flat Earth. Yeah, kudos. Say hello to Adam and then we'll continue. Hey, Adam.
Hello.
Hello.
Sky, the stars we see are in the exact same positions that they've always been in since the dawn of time.
Correct.
If we were moving through the galaxy, that wouldn't be the case. But
why do people think that the stars are like a clock in the respect that they just have one motion, that there is no alteration in them over time? If that was the case, you'd only need one almanac. There wouldn't be revisions to it. Now, don't get me wrong, we've got the predictive ability to predict where the stars will be in thousands of years' time in terms of their cyclical nature, but they do change. Now, just to clarify, I'm not disagreeing with this point in terms of heliocentric motion. but they can explain their way around that.
Yeah, but the stars are, no matter what, whatever changes they make, they've made them in the past, Nathan. They're cycle changes. They're not random changes based off of heliocentrism. Heliocentrism is not in line with the motion of the celestial bodies over a long period of time.
What's changing, though? The angles of the star?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, position year on year.
Right. So the angle to the star changes. How does that help them?
It doesn't. It only helps to prove a flat plane when you describe those angle measurements and how they may change with respect to each other.
Nathan, have you ever seen a change from one zodiac sign to another? Like, will you see the change of the age of Aquarius, or will this be something that will happen just like last night's sky happened and tonight's sky happens, and you won't see what happens in between? Nobody sees what happens in between. This is one of the points you've made for a long time.
No.
So you can't talk about...
Go on, Brian. Go on. I'm disagreeing with you before you finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, these changes you're talking about. No one sees these changes. We just see it after it's changed. So the age of Aquarius, what's that going to be? Are we going to see it happening in real time, or will it just happen and we won't, or will it be a situation where it'll just happen and nobody will even know?
Well, it's like a mechanism, isn't it? If you're saying the fractional change that occurs from the day and night cycle is basically imperceivable. Okay, I agree with you. But the change that there is, and there is one, is notable. And over a big enough period of time, those changes will alter where those stars are above at a given time. Therefore, you do need this year's almanac to know exactly where the star is above at a given time if you're using it to navigate with it over a flat plane. Just for the audience's benefit, everything we discuss from here forth requires a flat plane. We're just discussing the minutiae of the movement of the stars, right? And in terms of how they do have a cyclical nature, if you were to plot it over an enormous amount of time, they'd eventually reset. That much is true. But
don't you find it odd, though, that anything they present is not...
Hello? In the middle of talking to Brian. I want to summarise his point so he understands that I've recognised what he said. What Brian is saying is there's no perceivable change that you can actually observe during the night cycle. That does not happen. Yeah? So this inference that you have retrograde motion for the sake of argument, you're never actually going to see that. There's an inference when you plot them over time, night on night. But there is no actual deviation of one star versus another through the night sky. You can see the occultation of the moon, or the moon occulting a star, moreover, throughout the night. But that's it. In terms of their positioning, it's like a cog with a ratchet. It moves across during the daytime, and we do not see the move. When the night then starts its night cycle, you then see the positions that they're going to be moving in a linear manner. They're just cycling like they would every other night. And if there has been a change that you haven't noted, the difference would be imperceivable. And the change that actually happens never occurs before your eyes. Hope that was your point, Brian.
Yeah, but you said something there, and see, there's a couple of things you have to say, and I don't agree with him. You said they move about, they change about in the daytime. It's like, no, you have no evidence of that either. All you know is tonight will look slightly different from last night. That's it.
Okay, I don't mind the critique in that way.
See these little tiny changes you're speaking about over a course of time. You won't see them either.
I totally agree, and my phraseology was just poor. When I say they change in the daytime, that's incorrect, because I don't know that they change. I don't know where they go for them to change.
I'm pulling you up on your very point. You normally pull people up on this, or you did in the past, and now you're falling into the very trap that they fell into. That you would normally address them.
I wasn't going to die on the hill that they change in the day, Brian. It just flowed with the way I was describing it. I'm not going to die on that hill.
I know, but I have to say it to you. I'm sorry.
No, you don't need to apologise, and I shouldn't take it so personally. I was just wrong in my description. They change the following night. That is to say, where they line up with each other with respect to each other as they move through their standard motion that was the same as the last night, they've changed when you next see them. where I previously said in the day. I don't know what happened. In the day, they've gone. They're not doing anything.
I know. I'm trying to make you laugh about this. It's like when you ask, like when you go ask yourself, hang on, what did I just say? I don't see any of that. Oh, well, wait, my point is, and you've made this. My point comes directly from you making the point. You pointed yourself first. I didn't know. Everyone notices it, but they don't think about it. You pointed it out. We don't see that. Tomorrow night, I will see a different projection above me, right, than I will tonight. That's like one slider comes out of the projector, another slider goes in. Do you know what I mean? One of these old 1970s type projectors, like a presentation, on a stage.
Yes.
Or in a classroom. That's the only way I can describe it.
No, that's a perfect way. That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
That's perfect. If you imagine your old-fashioned school projector where it had one film that you could lay on a light and it projected it up through the light, through the lens onto your screen. And then when you went on to the next part of the story or whatever it is they were doing on that overhead projector, you took out one slide or one piece of acrylic and put another one on. Well, if you imagine that with the stars, you've got that A4 piece of acrylic that's see-through for a light to shine through up onto the screen. Well, you've got one set of stars and they're all going to stay in exactly the same position because they're put on a film. They're put on a piece of plastic that's see-through. Now, what you're going to do once it's on that flat light is physically with your own hand turn that film, that piece of plastic that's see-through with all the dots that represent the lights on it. You're going to turn it on the projector. And that's going to be analogous to what you see in the sky when you look at it on the overhead projector. Now, when metaphorically the night ends and the day comes, you take the film off and you put next day's stars. Now, they're basically almost exactly the same as the last night's. They're just slightly different, yeah? And then you see those and you turn them manually. But you don't get to see, like, with a projection that creates an image that is a movie. With a standard film, you've got 24 frames per second, which is enough to trick your eye into a series of photographs being perceived as moving. You never get that with the stars. It's never going to be like a flick book where you see the retrograde motion of a star from one position to the next. In theory, going backwards with relation to the stars from the previous night if you lined them up as a flick book. But they don't do that. They change in the day. Right, should we carry on with this video, or is there anything more to add on this?
The stars are a mystery.
But they've got a practical application, Neil. So why focus on the bits you don't know when you do know how they can be practically applied to save lives? That's all you need to focus on. Well, why do they move in that way? I don't know. What I do know is you can plot them and navigate with them on a flat Earth. That's a practical application that the Globers just don't have. Same with the Horizon. What do they have to practically apply a claim that boats are obscured by a physical limitation hill in the way called Earth curve? How is that practically applied in any way beyond indoctrinating people into a globe Earth belief? Answer: there isn't a practical application for it. Meanwhile, ascertaining a horizontal plane of reference with the horizon, the same one they said was blocking boats and buildings, is a way you can utilise the horizon to save your life at sea, if Earth's flat. Now, which is a better argument? I think it's perspective that causes the boat. Who gives a crap why the boat disappears? Is that boat disappearing going to be put into a practical application to save my life at sea? No? Well, the horizon's used to ascertain a horizontal plane of reference, that's a flat Earth, to save my life at sea. Trump that, dickhead. That would be my response when it comes to the horizon from here, moving here forward. Do I know why the horizon is what it is? Strictly speaking, yes. But I would probably lie, just for the sake of this example, and say no. Why? Because I don't need to explain what the horizon is with diffraction limits. Do I? It's not my claim. I'm not claiming it's a building-based hill-blocking horizon that's called Earth curve. So why am I going to justify what forms the horizon? But I do know how it's practically applied to save people's lives when Earth is measured flat. Far more devastating.
And this is why I had that rant before, because it's only being said here and the people like-minded.
What you're saying, Neil, is we are ace, and more should be like us.
Yes. But you see the point I wanted to say that have you guys noticed everything that they present is invalidatable? You are not able to observe anything they claim. You just have to have faith.
Not necessarily. They take things that do exist in reality and hijack them with back engineerings, often using a flat plane, to claim that what you are seeing in physical reality represents a reification of a globe, Earth horizon in the case of this example. Well, that's a physical thing that you can claim to see. It's not physical. It's the limitation between eye level and between surface level and sea level, or the ground and sky. That's what you're actually observing if you're going to define it. But they claim that thing that you can see is physical and is going to block your view because it is a hill called Earth curve. But that's a hijacking of something that we see in reality. Like the stars, they say the stars are rotating because we turn underneath. Again, a hijacking of something they claim is an effect of Earth moving, called Coriolis effect. Well, we all know the flaws in the argument of Coriolis effect, and I don't want to get into a 2-hour discussion about it now, but that is their claim of something that we can see. You can observe the stars to be moving. They just suggest it's as a result of you turning underneath on a rotating, non-inertial turning Earth. That is something you can see, Flatzoid. Just to
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's invalidatable for the account. They just make a claim. Obviously, you can observe stars moving, but their claim is it changes due to a certain thing that you cannot be used to validate it.
Well, their claim of why it does what it does with the changing motions. It's Kepler that's given an explanation for it with orbital motion, isn't it? He's made the motion elliptical to explain what was previously described with retrograde motion, just unsatisfactorily. So he's then gone along and said, well, how can we write this wrong so that the predictions match up better? And he's put everything into elliptical orbits. But that is, again, something that he can say, the reason this motion of this light occurs, when in reality, no, the reason it'll be in a different position when you next look at it the following night cycle. Because that's what he's actually trying to explain.
No, you have it wrong about Kepler. I'm sorry.
What?
Not saying you have it wrong. That may not be correct. You don't have it 100%. My point is you don't have it correct.
Outrageous. Get out.
Yeah, I have to say this to you. This is the point I've been trying to make from I don't know how many years ago. What Kepler had to do, right, was he had to back engineer, right, the sun cycle, which is what we observe the sun to do throughout the year, into the Copernican model. The only way he could do that was via an elliptical orbit. That us on a globe would have to have an elliptical orbit of that sun. Now, that sun in their model is claimed to be a star, right? So he had to then extrapolate out that all other stars or things like them, any orbits after that, had to also be elliptical.
That's correct.
We don't observe orbits. Nobody actually observes orbits.
I'll just give you props.
Brian,
let me just give Brian props. Right. Do you know what the title of the book I got all this from was, Brian? The Sun in the Church. And you are absolutely correct.
Can I ask a quick question, please?
You can.
My first appearance on the show. Thanks.
Well,
yeah,
Brian's
Brian,
got something to tail off with, but yeah, can you just wait till Brian's done, then Arwin, then John? Go on, Brian.
No, I'm okay. I just wanted to make that point that
Fine, go ahead,
he
Arwin.
had to back engineer reality.
Yeah, with the sun. Well, the point that I got wrong was the sun, and you're right. And even the title of the book itself was The Sun in the Church. Anyway, go ahead, Arwin.
I was wondering if you could manage to explain technically as succinctly as possible exactly why it was required to use an elliptical model, specifically only that part. Why? Could you?
Because the sun cycle, right? Now, I can't say this is exactly what the sun is doing, but the sun cycle, right, is basically stating that in the north summer months, that the sun is at its highest point in the sky and it makes its smallest rotation above us, right? And it moves at its slowest. And as we go from June 21st to December 21st, the sun lowers in the sky. It creates a bigger circle or elliptical maybe around us, and it moves a bit faster. And when it reaches December 21st, The sun is at its lowest point in the sky, and it has its biggest circuit, whatever that circuit is, and moves at its fastest rate. Right? That's the cycle. That's how the sun cycle. That's what it actually is. Now, to make that work, sorry.
Yeah, so the elliptical orbit is there because of the back and forth swing of the sun, basically, over the seasons.
Yeah, the only way to make it work, if you look into it, the only way for him to make that apparent cycle, because you can only call it apparent, because I don't know if it's doing exactly that, but that apparent cycle, the only way to make that work by putting us with the Copernican model, which is us on a globe rotating, orbiting around the sun, the only way to make that work is to create elliptical orbits. That's why they have this tilt, the 23.4 degree tilt, and they have the 3 million mile difference in northern and southern summers. That's why that's there, because he had to mathematically make it work. And then after that, all orbits were elliptical, and when we look up in the sky, we don't see any of them.
Right, because technically we're standing still and the celestials are having this back and forth swing cycle of the seasons, but because they have to reverse everything around and make the Earth spinning around things, then that translates that back and forth swinging of the celestials into that elliptical model that they would have to follow to make it seem to fit. That's it.
Yeah, exactly, because with the rotation of the globe, that's sidereal, and it's very specific why it's sidereal. Because they can't claim that it's solar because the solar won't match it. So they had to go with sidereal to match the stars. That's where the whole Coriolis effect claim comes from with the globe. So we're rotating at a sidereal rate, not a solar rate, which is what changes our day, the position of the sun from day to day. That's also part of it.
Just bear with me a second while I do a quick shout out to Gene. He says, I just want to shout out Adam on Saturday's Globebusters. He had me rolling on the floor. Thank you for the super chat.
Right, so technically within their reasoning, if there were no cyclical orbits, there wouldn't be seasons. That's what that would result into, right?
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't be able to explain any kind of season. Not that they have a good explanation for it anyway. They don't have an explanation.
All the celestials would just be the steady, same person over and over again.
It's not that it's not a good explanation. It's just counterintuitive when they lay it out for you. You being further away from the sun in the northern hemisphere winter, it doesn't make any sense when they lay it out. But their tilt is the reason. Brian's right. That is how it's described.
Yeah, but just real quick, the tilt and the orbits are with respect to a plane of reference.
And you were going there next. Epic. That's correct. So this is where the discussion about not needing an axis got into quite a heated discussion a couple of weeks ago, because we were already getting there. It's already being interrupted by Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I have to say this. That was my point years ago.
Oh, it's an agreement. I love it. Oh, Brian's on board. Excellent. Go ahead, John. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, just leave me make my point a second. That was my point years ago. He had to back engineer what he was viewing of a horizontal flat plane. This is what I was saying years ago in my presentations about it. The Kepler had to back engineer it from a stationary plane. That's what he had to do and what the sun is doing over us. So when John says that, yeah, it's correct. But I was a point I was trying to make for years. No one listened to it.
And you have video to prove it, right, Brian? You have your videos to prove it.
I don't actually, because my presentations were on Rampy's, and Anthony got Rampy to leave his channel.
Oh, God. It's it. You got nothing to hang your hat on.
No, Neil. He has the default. He came up with it 2 weeks before everybody else to hang it up with.
It's irrelevant. If Brian says he said it, why would I argue with Brian? It's irrelevant.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me that said it, it'd be obviously a high degree of importance, and that would be stressed. But as Brian said it a couple of weeks ago, who cares? Okie dokie. Should we carry on with this video? Is there anything more to say on elliptical motion?
No, but if Brian said it, you would have jumped on it and took it as your own.
No, I don't mind admitting my ignorance. Right?
Yeah, but we were probably digging into the black swan or something.
Or distracted by other things that stopped us from comprehending the fantastic demolition of this particular position with respect to a globe and proof of a flat earth that Brian disseminated. No, we just weren't smart enough to pay attention and digest what Brian had to say back then. I'm happy to admit my ignorance. When Brian says in his frustration, no one would listen, I'm sure I was listening. I listen quite intently to everything you say, actually, Brian. Doesn't mean I understand it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be able to regurgitate it in a coherent way that forms an argument. Just hearing and listening doesn't mean I comprehend. And I am more than content to admit my own ignorance if you have put that information out to me and, as you put it, no one's listening. You can always detect when it happens. So let's say it's you put out this 2 years ago, and there's a brief silence enough for you to know that everyone's recognised that they don't have anything to add or can't necessarily parrot it back to you or paraphrase it back to you enough for you to understand that they have understood it. There's just that small pause and then a subject change. And you often do this, Brian. I pick up on it all the time, and I feel guilty because I can't back you up because I haven't comprehended it either. So you'll go, oh, right, it's no one going to acknowledge that what I've just said. And the answer is no. Why? Because no one can summarise it because they haven't comprehended it either. I won't say they, me. I haven't comprehended it, so therefore there's just a short pause followed by a subject change. Right, Brian?
Yeah, it's on me too, though, because when I try and explain stuff, the way I try to explain it, it's obviously not as good as other people when I initially do it. Because I was saying it for years, trying to make the point about that thing since 2016, 2017, whatever it was. And it was falling on deaf ears. But when John points out, no, you're going to need a flat earth for that, and he shows an orbit, and you need a flat, and like that is literally making the same point, but he did it in such a way where everyone listened. So I can't claim it even as mine in that way. Not that I'm looking to claim it. I'm just trying to support John and what he's saying. Is like, yeah, that's the point. You know what I mean? I don't matter. I'm just looking for attention.
Yeah, but you know what, Brian? Hold on 1 second. There's a lot of things that I'm understanding, and I got it, and then it comes out months later, like Nathan says, then people grasp it, but I got it at the first. Just because it's not voiced doesn't mean you don't get it. I mean, when John explained it, I got it because he showed it in my mind. I could illustrate it and figure it out.
I agree. When John explained it, I got it. I got it when John explained it. When you explained it, you're just a bit shit.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
It's like BJ in 2016 had made a video talking about a black swan argument. He even called it a black swan argument for the horizon Earth curve.
No,
nobody was listening to him.
What a load of nonsense!
It's true.
I call bullshit.
Dodo.
No, it was true. He did do that, and nobody paid attention because it was messy. It wasn't very technical, but that was what he was trying to do, and then he just left it there. He forgot about it himself.
Yeah, right.
It's still out there. The video is still there.
PJ said that to me as well. He did say that to me.
Yeah, because it's true. And he's an idiot, but he did get some things interestingly right.
I never give a presentation on this. NASA did it for me back in the 80s. So if anybody can beat that, we'll just give NASA the credit for pointing it out.
Well, it's part of the rhetoric.
That'd be better.
Again, the people, why should there be credit for pointing it out? Now, again, if you're listening, Math Powerland, I'm really sorry, because this is basically going to try all of your validity in terms of being the first person to expose it in the current wave of people who now think the Earth is flat, believe the Earth is flat. But nevertheless, Earth is flat. Now, being the one to point out that it's flat doesn't change that it's flat, does it? Now, in this instance, Brian being the one to point it out when, in reality, the model of a globe requires a flat plane. Now, spotting the fact that it requires a flat plane and pointing it out to an audience, yeah, you can take as much credit as you like, but as John's just managed to sap away everybody's credit with one statement. NASA pointed it out in the 80s in that video we covered recently. Why? Well, because there's a necessity for a flat plane on a globe. Now, summarising it in that way was something that John did that I, really, really liked. And originally, a couple of weeks back even, maybe even a month now, people didn't like. I don't know why. We worked our way through it, and now it's Brian that was covering it 2 years ago. Now, that's good. That's the way I want it to be. Good. Now, if it's good because Brian gets to point out that he's way ahead of the curve and always is, he's a very smart guy, then all more power to Brian for pointing that out. And I'll agree with him. You know, it isn't necessarily credit worthy. And I'm not saying that to take credit away from Brian. I'm saying these are matter of fact. It's not like, oh no, we've spotted the hidden flat earth they needed. No, it's the foundation. You know, they can't not point it out in a video in the 80s. It's how the model's made, using a flat earth. Now, yeah, we do need to sing this from the hilltops, but if we spend 20 minutes crediting Brian, we're not going to be doing that, are we? Now, if it was me, we'd spend 30 minutes crediting me. But like I say, it's Brian, so...
You know we would. After you robbed it from someone else.
Well, from you. I just like to say, I like the way that John was banging the door more often. So it's not necessarily that what you have pointed out wasn't necessarily coherent enough for people to understand. I'm sure it was. It's just about repetition. About banging that door over and over and over and over and over until people get it. That's why the show works, right? Many of the things that we cover are complex and aren't immediately understood and comprehended by the audience. Therefore, repetition is the key. Like with any education, you know, that's how you become fluent in something. Doesn't matter what. Repetition. So there's a reason we have the housekeeping formatted the way it is. There's a reason that people's criticism in the comments, oh, it's a bit samey. Yeah, there's going to be a time where you come here and you find out all the information because we're trying to lay it out in the most concise way. If you paid attention for a week or two, you'd probably extract all of the up-to-date information that you'd need about this subject matter. I'm going to say about a fortnight. Do you reckon we'd cover everything in the space of a fortnight of any given period of shows? Therefore, you can just come along, extract what you want from it, realise it's measured flat, and then get on with your day. Now, that's not going to be great for audience retention because it's repetitive. But people still see the value in it. And they also realise that slow are the cogs that turn. Now, we can all praise our wonderful understandings of flat earth requirements, but it's taken a time for us as a collective group to turn all of those cogs enough to make it into a concise argument. And a concise argument's what's needed for an audience member to digest it, to then realise the value of it. Now, that takes time. You can't just expect Brian, if you're an audience member, 2 years ago, to be able to disseminate this to you as an audience member in such a concise fashion that you can immediately hear it when it's only just being put to you by Brian after he's only just researched it that day and made a video about it the following day. And he's expected to put it into a 3-word sentence? No, definitely not. It's going to take some comprehension on Brian's part for him to understand it in such a way that he can format it better. And that takes a collective group a bit less time, admittedly. But we've got to understand it, haven't we? So this is a journey of discovery that the regulars, the members, the people who support me on Patreon, all of those people, they see the slow turning cogs but want to keep up to date with them because there are, I don't want to call them revelations, but major changes that occur at some of those ratchet points. You know, we like to highlight them and call it things like the year of the Black Swan or the year of the elevation angle. But we can only do that as those cogs are turning, and it is a fascinating process to watch our collective discovery journey into flat earth. But, you know, you can't expect immediate refinement from Brian. Notice how I've paraphrased this into a sort of negative slant on how we shouldn't be criticising Brian for his failures. I'm such a prick. Anyway, shout out to Tom for joining as a member. And for super chatting, he says, bring it up. It took me a year for 90 degrees to click. Thanks. Oh, thank you, Tom. I could kiss you. There you go. Now I do lay that. At Brian. You know, it is full. He could have been more concise. It would have got there. You'd have got there quicker if it wasn't for Brian's inconsistency. But I know what you're saying, Tom.
Well, surprisingly, I got that right away. But it was 10th Man that was leaking it out in the pre-show. So, you know.
Did Brian go? Did he not hear any of those insults? Those backhanded insults that fell on deaf ears? Did he disappear? Bastard. Get him back here so I can insult him some more for his intelligence that I'm mocking because I'm not as smart as he is. What an outrage. Anyway, should we carry on with this video? I've asked about 4 times.
Yes, carry on. Hit play.
I tell you that, and it's fine. Yeah? But then I tell you, no. We actually live in the firmament and we're stationary, and the sun and the moon orbit the Earth. You call me crazy? Like, what's more crazy?
He's making his baseless assertion, then making the declaration that he's going to be called crazy for it before he's even been called crazy. No, just making baseless assertions.
Are crazy, Jesse. Maybe he is crazy.
Guys, I believe what I believe. Like, you tell me.
Yep, there we go. There's the problem.
Crazy if you think that's an argument.
Yeah, crazy if you think that's an argument, and expressing it as your belief would be strictly accurate, but it doesn't really sell anybody on the ideas that you believe in.
Me that Jesus Christ was born of a virgin, traveled to Bethlehem, died for how many?
This ham-handed segue.
Days, rose
after 3 days.
and then went to heaven. You tell me
people believe that
he turned 2 loaves and 3 fish into to feed 5,000. And people are like,
yeah, that works.
That works.
I hope Brian didn't go because he actually thought I was insulting him, as opposed to like backhanded insults. I hope not.
No, Brian would never do that.
Well, you know, sometimes me.
Okay, Nathan.
Yes,
Nathan. You were talking about the second law of thermodynamics and the moon.
Oh no, Georgie.
No. Take it easy, man. Take it easy. What if the moon is inside? Our atmosphere. They say atmosphere, actually more on atmosphere. So if it is inside, like they are saying now, the moon is inside the atmosphere, then you cannot use the argument, second law of thermodynamics, and it's going behind any firmament or whatsoever, or barrier, or so on and so on. So what do you think about that? If the moon is just small and is inside our atmosphere?
Okay, I mean, that's fair enough. If you want to claim that it's small and inside, then I'd just ask you to prove that, if you want to put that forth as a claim.
Yeah, it looks like that. It's an observation,
no it says in the firmament, not in the air.
Right, are you now going to launch into defending what the Bible says, Arwin? I said if he wants to claim, that is to say, if Johnny B wants to claim that we've got a small moon inside a firmament, inside the atmo, then that's up to him. Just, okay, Johnny, fine. Prove that it's small and inside anything.
No, I'm not claiming. I'm just.
What do you mean you're not claiming?
Like
you just claim
close,
that. Oh, I listened to what you just said. That's exactly what you just said.
I said it can be like that, and they also say that.
Oh, sorry.
The official.
My bad. Sorry,
say,
I misunderstood. You're saying it can't be like the guy who just said it was like that, right? So we're in agreement then. He hasn't got any evidence to back that, and you're in agreement with us.
Absolutely,
I see.
There's a lot of agreement there. Yeah.
I see. No, I totally agree with you. It's baseless assertion that it's inside some. What is it? What's the moon? He doesn't know. He's just making a baseless assertion.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
There are certain specific words being used in the Bible, right? Firmament being one of them. Atmo or air is not even mentioned in it like that. It's not relevant to the location of the celestials. They're placed in the firmament. That's all you got. The rest is all just speculation. It's not a basis for an argument.
Yeah, but also another passage, birds fly in the firmament, and they're not flying inside a piece of glass, are they? So I think we can all agree there are issues with certain translations, but they are issues from men and not from the word itself.
Right, the word again.
Good point.
Why are we now debating the Bible? I don't get it.
Right, none of this even matters. None of this makes sense. In reality, we have air. We have a system. The system is a part of the creation. There is no air and then nothingness. There is no... But that's just
Thank you, Eli. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Another quick shout out to Himsake, who smashed the super chat just as the intro started. He says, can we have a quick explanation of dip correction angles? ? I see Globers using it to get radius value. Thanks. Well, thank you for the super chat, Himsake. Unfortunately, no, we're not going to cover that on this live show, but we'll cover it in the after show, I'm certain. Thanks. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.
They are talking about the dip angle. It's nothing about the the celestial navigation about the dip angle. It's about dip correction.
I'm sorry to just interrupt for a second. Right, I've been sat here for about 2.5 hours straight, so I'm going to have to like stretch my legs and walk around for 5 minutes. Yeah, guys, if you can keep the conversation going, that'd be really.
That's where you make the mistake. Don't ask us to keep the conversation going. Just go do what you got to do. We're going to talk.
Yeah, often, if I go make a brew now, one of the many lists of things that I'm going to do in the next few minutes, right? Often I'll be in the kitchen, and if I don't say anything, I'll hear dead air, and I'll have to drop what I'm doing, come in and go, yeah, that's absolutely right, Neil. Yeah, or something like that. So if I
just say I'm going to make a coffee and close your mic.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Yes, Nathan. There you go.
We'll keep the conversation going.
Well, Nathan's not as quick to do that because there are Globers out there who would take advantage of the situation to try and do something uncouth. So I kind of understand why he wouldn't want to show that he's not at his mic at the moment. But for the dip angle thing.
Hold on, John. Wait a second. I got to address that. Globers, where are they? What, are they strolling here once every 6 months?
Oh, they're watching, Neil.
We're talking about. We are talking about the dip angle or dip correction. We were going on with the conversation, and I really want to talk about it because they are talking about this dip angle all the time. They don't understand what this is about. It's only that if you are making any, if you are talking about how you use the sextant, just if you are talking about that, then the right term is to say dip correction. And dip correction is just from the observer height, the eye height, to the sea level. That's all it's about.
Yeah, it's in reference to a plane of equal elevation.
Yeah,
that's correct.
You can also zoom, but if you have if you're on an airplane, you have to zoom. The earth is flat, and it will work very, very fine. But you can also make a dip correction if you.
But now the dip angle they're speaking of, requires the flat earther to say the horizon is eye level, not at eye level. Or they'll take it and run with it like you said the word is, and then they'll say. If I can measure a differential in this dip level, I can show the horizon is not at eye level. Therefore, it's not flat, like this flat earther just claims. But the thing is dip angle is the differential between eye level and where surface level or sea level appear to meet the sky.
Exactly.
That's too far.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. I forgot to say that. I have to say from the evaluation angle or the sighting line to the star or to the sun and observer height. And that's just correction to the sea level. That's all it's about. So yes, we have to say the elevation angle. We have to say the sighting line, elevation angle to that we are aiming. And the observer height. From that point, that has to be 180 from the observer point. And that is about. It's very, very simple. I don't understand why it has to be so hard to understand.
Well, it's because the Feast of Nonsense offers them up that insanity where if the horizon dips away at a certain ratio, then it's a globe. The horizon does dip away at this ratio, therefore it's a globe.
Is that
I think it's the perfect place to introduce a doublespeak.
But it's
go ahead, Neil.
No.
Wasn't that an affirmative consequence?
No, it's begging the question, and it's also using the horizon, which can't exist on a sphere.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. Slope-a-dope. There are no horizons on a sphere. Get it through your heads.
Yeah, and how can you have a fucking angle to a horizon?
No swearing, Johnny. No swearing.
Yep.
Oh, you can swear in after show, right?
No swearing. No swearing. Johnny, the show is listed as educational, Johnny.
The reason is that the algorithm has cracked down quite a bit on the swearing, so you have to be really, really careful about.
Yeah, you take money every time you swear. You take money away from Nathan, so stop swearing.
Okay, I will try. I really I don't want to swear anymore. But it's just
hey, Johnny, you sound like you're sober today. You sound like you didn't have any drinks. I like this, Johnny.
Yeah, thank you very much. But I'm not.
Yeah, you're encouraging a functional alcoholic, Neil. Thanks a lot.
So anyway, yeah, like John was saying,
it's a perfect place to introduce the doublespeak, guys. Right? Right. The dip angle correction. It's a perfect place to introduce a doublespeak.
Yes, it's the foundation, really, of how they get a globe. You know, the Alberoni dip angle measurement that they calculate the radius from.
I think Eli's trying to get a word in.
No, I was interrupting him for sure. I thought he was done. I was stepping on his heels. Sorry, John.
I was just saying that it is part of the rhetoric. The dip angle correction that Alberoni measured is how they calculate the radius of a sphere Earth.
Yeah.
And that's why Brian likes to call it the height of arc correction.
That's where they got us messed up at. Like, because again, it's only because we are engaging them that this conversation is where it is. It's our ability to maneuver the conversation. I would even dare say as a collective as to why it's in the condition it's in. Because why are we asking them how they get a globe? Okay, well, here's my imaginary story. I don't have to ask you that. I can straight up to, what's this flat earth stuff? 5 seconds. I'm done. Level isn't curved. What does that mean? Do you really want to know? I don't believe you.
I see what you're saying, Eli.
If you tell me level is curved, okay, cool. Good luck.
So don't entertain the nonsense, and let's speak about reality and reality only, and stay away from the fallacies.
Because you'll make a pointed point. Is that a double negative? You'll make a point, and then they'll just give you some sort of either red herring or non sequitur altogether that validates in a vacuum their own separate point as a response to you. And it's like, what's the point? If we waste time having conversations that are not about the point than the conversation itself. If the conversations that we had were going on in the news and on TV, you would have to quiet it because people can't hear the conversation sound like this. They're very fine with it sounding like what it sounds like on Globebusters.
Yeah, well, you know why too, Eli? It's because they have this confidence that they still think everybody knows it's a sphere. I heard that the other day. Well, we all know it's a sphere. So what we talk about here, if it could be shouted throughout the news and things like that, oh, forget it. Forget it. I don't think they're ready for it, though, to be honest. I think that's where refracted curvature always says. I don't think they're ready for this.
Yeah, there's a lot of points that we have to repeat. And I have one point that you are not talking about so often. That is circle of equal altitude. You are not taking that in so hardly. But if you really do, you will break down all the argument because...
Agreed, Johnny. Agreed.
Listen.
No, I understand what he's saying. He's saying if you really...
Listen, 360 degrees around the GP will give you a circle of equal altitude every point that you make the measurement. And that will give you thousands of 360 degrees radius around every GP you measure. That is impossible on a spherical Earth with 3959 radius miles.
Hey Johnny, when 10th Man was leaking all of this stuff out, And when he brought out the circle of equal altitude, that freaking blew me off my seat. You're right.
Yeah,
that should be discussed even more.
I miss him. I miss him. I miss that man. And, he was absolutely spot on. And just if you really understand what this means, circle of equal altitude, it's even over big ratios.
It means thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of feet of flat. So how can that happen on a globe?
Square feet.
Square feet, whatever. Thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. How about that?
Square miles. But
square miles or miles squared?
No, but
I
you know,
think
like
this is the
that's the
best
thing.
argument that we can give.
That's the thing. It's like if they don't understand what they believe in, why are we spending hours talking to them after? Because we understand what we believed in, thus we understand what they believe.
It's not about believe. It's about understanding and knowing, and not about believing. I hate this fucking believe. I'm not using the word believe.
No swearing, Johnny. No swearing.
Oh, sorry, I did it again. Just like a
we know what Eli's saying. He's not saying believe. He knows it's flat. We know that. We have a no-so attitude. They have a belief system. That's why their belief system is crumbling.
And that's the thing.
And a lot of flat earthers. Good.
Once I realized, because I knew the difference between belief and knowing before I got here. So when I was looking for validation for the globe, I realized I would have to believe, and that was it. It's just that's all we're talking about. Beliefs versus, just our reality, what we observe, what we can describe. They're doing a lot more than just describing. They're explaining things that they are imagining is the case based on their worldview. Well, I imagine that's a burning plasmic gas in the vacuum of space, 93 million miles away. It's like there's so many suppositions baked into there. How do you even tell someone? How do you walk them back psychologically so that they can even hear what you're saying?
Yeah, but if you think about what you just said, Eli, now add on, they have us in a solar system, and what we're standing on, we're supposed to believe that it's somewhere in space, floating in a solar system, spinning. That's insanity. Right? They have us in a solar system, don't they? What are we, the third planet from the sun? So I'm supposed to believe that I'm in space right now? That's the key word.
The question is,
I'm supposed to believe.
Now, the question is, how are we observing our world? We are seeing the sun is much smaller than the Earth, right? That's how we see the sun is going around us in a circle. How do I know that? Yes, because if you're in the north, you're able to see the sun go around you, and you can see the pattern in the summertime of 64, 65, 66 degrees north. You are able to see the pattern of the sun, and the only that's happening is the sun goes out in a bigger circle. The pattern is not changing. It's the same pattern. So it's obvious what's happening. We are able to see that with own eyes, and also how the sun is not so big and then not so far away. It's obvious if you just use your senses and the understanding and logic and everything. And all the time lapse, if you take time lapse of the sun, you can see the circle it is and how the pattern is. Then you can also see that they call Antarctica, that we call Antarctica shoreline. I mean, you have 200 feet ice shoreline around. Why? It's because of the sun is not giving any heat any further or wider. That is very logic, right? You don't have to make anything up. It's just like we are observing things. And why do we have 200 feet ice shoreline?
Hold on. Whoa. Where you go? How do you validate that we have a 200-foot ice wall, Johnny?
All of the photos, all of the videos, all of the witnesses, and also of the logic, because it has to be so, because the sun is going in a circle, because like I said, the sun is going in the circle in the north. You can see the pattern. It's just going wider, and then of course it has to be ice outside the range. Outside
yeah, but you're making assumptions, Johnny. You're making assumptions.
Yeah, you're having your physicality assumption bias get to you. You are reifying the sun's position based on the mathematical angles in the disk model to be in a literal position and thereby having a distance and that distance supposedly having an influence. There's no evidence for any form of distance to the sun. It's an apparition.
No, I'm not talking about the distance. I'm talking about the pattern, not distance.
You were saying the ice wall. Hold on. You were saying the ice wall and the distance to the sun thereby makes it logical. But yeah, for it to be logical like that, you literally have to assume that the sun is in a position in order to make a distance to it relevant for there being an ice wall.
Yeah, it's not an ice wall.
Yeah, and I gotta see this ice wall. Where is this ice wall? I see pictures, Johnny.
I'm talking about the shoreline, not ice wall. Guys, drop it down a bit. I'm talking about the ice shore, not ice wall. I'm just saying the sun is not reaching with any effect, and therefore it's like a cliff on. You can see it long range. It is like that. And I'm telling you, you can see the sun is going around you in the north. Then you get bigger circle, and then it goes back. And because the sun goes back to the north, therefore you have the shoreline cliffed off with ice, and everything behind it. And inland is just ice and cold and darkness.
Therefore, really? Therefore, so you are assuming that there is a distance that is the cause.
Yeah, I'm talking about the range. I'm talking about how wide the sun is.
No, but you got to listen to what Owen's saying. When you say that, you're assuming a distance. That because of that distance, it's causing this to be a certain way.
Yeah, it has to be. I cannot see it. No, I'm not talking about the altitude.
Right. So you are assuming the sunlight has to be some kind of a lamp somewhere, and thereby a distance to the lamp causes the region to be cold. So you are literally assuming it to be in a position having a distance, and that distance being the influencer for the temperature causing the distance. That's what you are assuming.
I'm just saying it looks like that. It looks like that. What are you
It's very easy to interpret it like that, but you can't prove it because you can't prove a distance to the sun. So that's that.
And let's be honest. At this point, Johnny, I can't even prove Antarctica. I can't go there. I'm not saying it's not there.
You know the sun will come back.
I only go by what they show me in the news.
The seasons. It comes back, and you can clock it.
Yeah, you're seeing it, so it has to be there. So that's your physicality assumption bias is getting to you. You can't imagine that it might not be
because of the reality and observations.
Yeah, but you're just assuming it must be an object in your mind, and that's the cause for things to be the way they are. But you can't prove it. It just seems so conveniently logical to you, like everybody else. That's called physicality assumption bias.
But what you can prove from that, Johnny, is if you can show a shoreline, with, say, a wall of ice 200 foot tall, that's from sea level, 200 feet high from sea level. You can just park right there instead of arguing about a ring that surrounds this Earth.
Because we have ice, and if you have the sun going right there, then you shall not have the ice, 200 feet ice shoreline. That's what I'm saying. The sun is not giving any heat any further, and because it's going back again to the north.
So what about in North Russia? There's like a lot of sun there during the summer. It's still frozen though. It supposedly it's supposed to be much closer, isn't it? So see how that doesn't work?
No, it not really is.
There is no distance. There's only the amount of time that the sun is visible in the sky. That's really the only factor you have to go on. You can't claim or prove a distance causing anything.
I also explained these things in my presentation years ago.
2 weeks ago.
Hold on. Why go to the extremities of where the unknown to try to prove the Earth's flat when you can just go to the known?
We're not talking about that. He's just asking this. If he's just trying to picture it in his mind and leaning on this physicality assumption bias that plagues the Feast of Nonsense people too. And I'm trying to help him to stop that habit and show him that no, you can just look at it and not know exactly what causes it, but realize that the physicality assumption bias is leading you down a track that is unfalsifiable.
I cannot find any other resolution. I cannot find anything else because the sun is going back and forth, and that's giving us the seasons and everything. And I'm able to see the sun going around me and the pattern of the sun in north. Therefore, I can say, okay, the sun's behavior is like that, and I'm able to see that 360 degrees. And I understand, oh, now the sun is getting bigger circle and bigger circle, then it will come back. What do we have? Oh, we have a shoreline of 200 feet, shoreline of ice. Because the sun is not going any further. So it's not our assumption.
What about North Russia? I'm sorry. What about North Russia?
Yeah, but Arwen, this all comes back to, like, this whole thing I covered back in 2016 or 17. If you are going to add in ice in the north and an ice wall in the south, like as in an Antarctic circle around us, then the sun cycle actually would support both those things. Because in the northern summer, the sun is, it's at its highest point in the sky. Now, every year, the Antarctic ice sheets do melt, supposedly, right? So, but in the southern summer, is at its lowest point in the sky, but it's moving at its fastest rate. So, consequently, if you look at that as an Antarctic ice circle, then there is a certain amount of melting goes on, but the amount of ice and the amount of ice and temperatures that are claimed to be there, I don't know, then that sun cycle would support that being there, based off the rate of its movement, whatever it is. You know, like you can go down that road using the kind of the basic sun cycle. You can, but you can never prove any of this, really. Well, I don't know what the Earth is fully.
I mean, it's a good point, Brian. But I mean, it's all about really how much the percentage of the time the sun is in the sky. That's really what it's about, and that is not related to a reification of an actual position.
Well, it's not a reification. It's a fact that we have, and we are working for the fact. And there is no fauna and flora that is in like it's in the north because of the differences. And no fauna, no flora. There is no life.
No fauna. That's not true.
You have ice. That is telling us, and also have the pattern of the sun. So
why aren't we taking it to a place we can't go? Why are we doing that? I don't get this.
I don't like this. I feel very icky.
Why don't we stick with what we know?
No flora, no fauna.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I mean, I understand that you're wanting to have a conversation about it, but it's not proven because you don't know it.
Oh, we're just skimming through the data, and I'm giving him an alternative way to look at it. So I'd suggest look at it about how much percentage of the day is the sun visible in the sky as a factor of a temperature influencer, instead of reifying the sun into being a position and the position being the factor. Try to do that.
Arvin, you're not giving me anything. You're not giving me anything. You're just trying to be smart now and give me some because I'm fucking biased. I don't have bias. I'm taken from logic and information and facts. And I'm using my brain to understand. Yeah, okay, it has to be so. It's not a bias. It isn't.
I'm sorry, you were like trying to discuss as to like what exactly about the sun is causing the situation of the climate in those local regions, and I'm trying to give you a good pointer as to how to look at it. Just look about how much time the sun is there in a day as the data, as the factor to tap from for the climate conditions in that region, instead of in the model.
Okay.
What are you doing?
You let me finish the damn sentence for once, man.
Okay, you have to take in also. Take it easy, Arvin. I will point out before I go crazy on it. You have to take in the angular momentum. You will have the same degree, but it's going faster. The bigger circle it's going around, and the bigger circle, but you have the same angular momentum from the north, from the point. You will have the same angular momentum, but it is going faster, and therefore we have a different time zones, and therefore they have only 2 time zones in Australia, but 4 in the same distance of land. You have 4 time zones in America and 2 in Australia. It's because the sun is going faster. The twilight also must fast. You don't have so long time twilight in Australia like you have in North. Why is that? It's because the sun is going faster in South. It's just logic. Why? Yeah. You can see it get darker much faster in Africa and Australia because it's just get black and 6 o'clock over the year. Almost, maybe sometimes it's longer or so on. But in North, the twilight is always longer. That is. Did you say there were 4 time zones? The pattern of the sun and everything.
Did you say there were 4 time zones in Australia? Did you say that?
No, in America. They are trying to say that there's a 3 time zone in Australia, but it is in reality it's just 2. But they are trying to put the third in the middle somewhere.
What's the point?
The point is the sun is going faster because of the bigger circle that the sun is taking, but they have the same angular momentum.
No. The description that it's represented with is your measurement of its angular position in the sky with respect to you. But your inference that means faster or slower, I would immediately challenge. You don't know what the sun is. So to say because of your observation and description of its angular rate means it's moving faster.
No, okay. But I'm talking about it's 24 hours. It's the same for everybody, but it isn't. If you take the time zone, therefore I'm talking about the time zone. There is not the same, and you have shorter days in the south, but in north you have longer days. Has nothing to do with temperature or something like that. It's just because of how light spreads over. But you have the same angular momentum. You have a 50 degrees and a 24 hours time zone. Should be even, but on a flat Earth it isn't like that. It's
Stop a second.
it is not
Stop a second. you've just described how its angular rate, that's a measurement with respect to a plane, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. From the north, from the point.
Stop.
Yes.
So you're talking about how you describe it with relation to the angles we see of it as it traverses the sky through the day with respect to a flat plane. That's what you've just described when you described the angles. Now you're about to launch into that won't work on a flat plane. What are you, MC Toon? You're going to tell me about angles that are only capable... Shut up. You're going to tell me about angles that are only capable of measurement from a flat plane and then tell me how that won't work on a flat plane. No. Like MC Toon, I'm not going to repeat it 87 times like I had to with him. Don't start with something that can only be acquired from a flat plane only to go on to tell me how it won't work on a flat plane. Okay?
Yeah, how can you take angle otherwise? You need,
sorry, muttering much? Yeah, you don't need to mutter about my absolute demolition of you're about to wrangle into how it doesn't work on a flat plane. These angles only can be measured on a plane. Fact. Don't mutter at me.
Yes, I am saying that.
Good. So Earth is going to be measured flat for your example you're about to launch into telling us how it don't work on a flat plane then?
That is...
That's absolutely correct, and you're going to mutter or maybe assert something with a bit of confidence to get around the fact that you're about to tell me how flat Earth angle measurements don't work on a flat plane. Yeah, they do. We clear?
How can you understand?
How can you stutter about this fact? The angles can only be measured on a flat plane. Do you understand?
You cannot get...
Don't tell me what I can't. The angles are with respect to a flat plane. For you to describe these movements through the sky that you've inferred have got speeds based on angle measurements off a plane. Third time.
No, the circle.
Yes, they are definitely angle measurements off a plane. Angles aren't meeting curved surfaces.
There is no argument.
Yes, so it's definitely being measured off a flat plane then. There's no argument. It's definitely a flat plane measurement that you're about to tell me how it doesn't work on a flat plane. Yeah, it does. It's a flat plane measurement. You haven't acknowledged that it's been 4 attempts.
No, I am not. There's misunderstanding.
Okay, how'd you get an angle measurement to describe this angular relationship from a curved surface? Go.
I'm not saying anything.
You don't. You don't get an angle to describe the angular relationship that you launched into moments earlier about the speed of the sun with respect to the description of its angles. Yet that's off a flat plane and can only be done if Earth's measured flat to give you your description of angles that you're about to launch into telling us how they don't work on a flat plane. What are you, MC Toon? Taking angles and asking us how they'll work on a flat plane? They can only work on a flat plane. 5th time. Do you want to acknowledge that?
I agree with you.
Good. So Earth's measured flat then, for your example. Feel free to tell me how this measurement of a flat Earth doesn't work on a flat plane as you're about to do. So I can have a good laugh at you.
No.
No, you will. You'll launch into telling me how these flat plane measurements of angles don't work on a plane. That's what you're about to do. Go. Laugh it up. No. I will laugh at you while you tell me about these angles that can only be measured if Earth is flat don't work on a plane. Don't laugh at me. I'm going to be the one laughing at you. When you tell me how these only capable of measurement of a flat plane angles don't work on a plane, go ahead.
Absolutely right. You cannot take any angles from
a globe Earth. That's right. Yeah, you can't. You're damn straight you can't. So when you start telling me about it don't work on a flat plane, it can only work on a flat plane.
I never said that.
No, I'm saying it because the angles you described are measurements with respect to a plane. Therefore, when you take measurements with respect to a plane and then launch into how they won't work on a plane, I'm going to go through this 6 times with you.
Okay.
Yeah. So Earth's measured flat. Do you now understand, given that I've described the flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the sun for you to infer its speed with the description of the angular relationship, that can only work if Earth is flat? Do you understand that's the 7th attempt?
Yes, I understand that.
Good. So Earth's flat. So you understand implicitly that Earth's being measured flat in this example, then, don't you?
Yes.
Good. Earth is flat. Your example that you're about to tell us how it couldn't work on a flat plane proves Earth is measured flat. That's right. That's what we're here for. to shut down numpties who want to tell us how flat plane measurements can't work on a flat plane like MC Toon and you in this example, and we're here to shout you down and belittle you for your stupid nonsense that flat Earth angles that can only be measured on a flat plane won't work on a flat plane, you stupid numbskull. Yeah, they will. Laugh it up, you stupid globe-believing retard. Your globe requires a flat plane to infer. But rather than pointing that out, you're going to tell me how the flat plane angles don't work on a flat plane like MC Toon did? Numpty, they do.
I don't think he's going to do that, man. I think Johnny's a flat earther.
Nah, bullshit.
You never listen. Yes, I agree with you, Nathan. Yes, absolutely. You cannot take an angle from a spherical Earth. It absolutely has to be a plane. And you're not able to take any angle because all definition of an angle, what is that? Angles all alone destroys the globe by definition. That's what I'm trying to say, and you're talking with me like a globalist all the time. I will not say I make fool of you now because you are not listening. It's like I was talking about somebody else.
Did I hear that? Declination. It doesn't comport with an angle. Is that what you said?
Angles alone destroy the globe by definition.
Okay.
And that I was talking about was about the circle pattern of the sun get bigger and bigger and getting closer to the south range. That will also let the sun go faster, but hold the angular momentum from the north.
That's where I stepped in last time.
I also told you guys.
That's where I stepped in last time.
I was saying.
It doesn't go faster. You're describing an angular relationship off a flat plane to say it goes faster.
Exactly that I'm saying.
It isn't. You don't know what the sun is.
No, I don't have to know what the sun is, but I can see what the sun is doing, like our observation.
Right. So rather than saying it's closer... okay, hold on, Owen. Rather than taking it me as attacking you as a flat Earth... No. Rather than speculation about its speed, employ its practical application off a flat plane. Now, you're already there when you describe this angular relationship to infer speed. But the inference you can't back, the practical application you can.
What are you arguing against, Nathan?
Against speculation about the sun's movement. You don't know what it is.
Nathan, every time you bring up Kepler and his analemma and his use of a flat plane for his orbits, you are directly referring to the original sun cycle, which is where he got all those, which is what he had to back engineer into the Copernican model.
Yes.
So you telling Johnny that he's stupid for saying that the sun is moving faster one time a year than the other. You're literally referring to that very sun cycle that Kepler referred to.
Yeah. Well, it's just as outrageous. Yeah, what you're saying is earlier in the show when I made an extrapolation about the daytime movements of the sun, it's just as absurd as Kepler's extrapolations.
Well, there's no, look, I have to say this. There's no other way to describe what the sun is doing within the sun cycle without using the terms faster and slower. Because the only way to describe it from our terrestrial position is something is moving at the same angular rate around us, but it's changing its position in the sky throughout the year. And by changing its position in the sky, because we're on a flat plane, that would mean that it's moving faster at one time a year and slower another time a year. But it's still holding 15 degrees per hour.
But you're already unifying it as a unit there.
I'm just saying that.
I just agree with him. I just agree. Yeah, the bit I agree with is 15 degrees an hour.
Okay. Then I was saying, therefore I was talking about the angular momentum. It will be the same, but because it's a bigger circle that the sun is going over in the south, because it's a bigger circle, movement is taking. Therefore, the 15 degrees hour will stay, but it's going faster because it's a bigger circle.
No, it's only going faster because your inference that 15 degrees an hour at a bigger radial value would infer a faster speed. I don't accept that. Until you can prove what it is.
It has the same angular momentum of the circle.
Does it? No, it doesn't. I can move my position with respect to it, and it won't move a smegging inch. No, it doesn't behave in the way a physical object behaves. So, based on the fact that I can show it doesn't behave in the way a physical object behaves, I'm not going to accept that it's a physical object at a greater radial value, therefore increased in speed. I'm not going to accept this.
You're talking like a globe. You're talking against all Flutter's observation and
like a
arguments.
Don't care. Couldn't care less. Don't care. You accept whatever you like. You want to accept that it's moving at a faster speed because its angular rate changes by our perception, and therefore it's in a bigger circle and moving faster. You can accept that all you like.
You are not tending on all cylinders. I have to say, because I was a glober, and all your answer was absolutely corrupt fucking shit. And now you're talking about something that I don't think that you are not all cylinder either. So what's happening with you today?
Nothing's happening with me. What are you talking about? I'm in a very good mood, actually.
No, you're not. You're not.
No.
No.
Well, just bring up the ether and get him on track.
Oh my God.
What's going on with the ether, Johnny? What is ether?
It's true earth ether, Johnny.
I will not make an. That I am against you. It's like I'm agree with you about everything, but about the ether is something that we have to understand, because there's a good.
What is it?
Movement and how light and give us we have
and how light.
We have maximization and demonstration of it, and we also have how.
Now, what is it first? Then you can demonstrate it. Just what is it first?
Meter, every meter is a 100 volt that is going on.
What?
And
what is it?
Through this electric background.
Background? It's a background. Where is this background at?
What's in the foreground?
Wait, Nathan, didn't you write down this definition last time?
Yeah, I wrote it down on an envelope, though. I was just looking for it. The convolution of the vibration of the backwards moving, maybe not moving.
It's a vibration. It acts every time.
No swearing.
It's some kind of vortex. It can be different in a different excitation.
What's it?
Excitation.
What's it? What's it? What is ether?
It's exciting.
It's the thing. You know, the thing.
Everything together is a vibration of electric.
A vibration of energy.
Vibration of what?
Hold on, let's get this down.
Again?
Vibration of energy. Got that down.
No, it's the thing that energy vibrates.
Not energy. It's not energy. It's not energy.
The manifest.
Okay, you can make energy of the ocean, but the ocean is not energy. Or you can go over from continent to continent, but the ocean is not energy.
That's fascinating.
What?
So we have the.
But you can make a lot of energy of the ocean.
Hold on 1 second, Johnny.
It can have a different state. You have to,
Johnny. We have the emissary to the Ethereans. No, he's not going to. It doesn't matter how many times I ask. Just 1 second, Johnny. 4th attempt.
I was just.
Yeah, he's not going to do. It's going to be a 5th attempt. What a wanker! Let's try it a 6th time. Just 1 moment, Johnny. We do have the emissary to the Ethereans here, who can give us his best estimation of what he has garnished from the Ethereans in regards to an answer to that question. What is ether? Adam, floor's all yours.
I would probably take opposition with what Johnny's claimed. I would say it's the medium for which energy can manifest into. Whether that energy is in the form of pure energy, or whether it's to form that
taking
energy
in and out that I hear really what you're saying.
Or whether
your voice changed.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? I went a little Nordic. Or whether it's that that energy to manifest into matter. Yeah, that's what the ether is there for. That's what it does. It in of itself isn't the energy. It's the medium in which, the way in which energy can manifest from counter space into real space, either as energy or to manifest as matter in a dense of the ether. But that's its purpose. It's
no, bad face. No.
Do you mean no? Do you mean no? You blasphemer.
Well, correct him then.
What is it? What is ether? Is it a medium?
Ether is something like through, and it's holding. You can bring wave through it, and I think it is some kind of electric from the. And yes, it is absolutely electric. I think most of it.
Yeah, so John is everything and nothing, yeah?
Hold on.
Sounds like the end yourself.
For a second.
Answer my question.
Is
ether a medium?
Well, he sort of half answered, but I'm going to have to repeat your question, QE.
No, it's not.
Just 1 second, medium, Johnny.
Yeah.
Let's try this 6 times. Just 1 second, Johnny. Like you said, a vibration can travel through it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So what is it that the vibration travels through?
I hate to say it, but it's some kind of electrons. I will not use that word, but I don't have any other word for it.
Some kind of what?
Electrons.
Electrons
it's
don't
some
exist.
type of electrons.
There's no such thing as electrons in Ethereum mechanics.
Okay, so you need to be more versed on your own rhetoric, it seems, Johnny.
The problem is it was ticking in and out, and that was very, very hard to say what you were trying to say. Something problem with the internet.
Of course, it's the internet. When we ask about 17 times what is it, and what it is on the table is ether, and he specifically asks you what it is, suddenly there's internet problems. There's the same question been on the table for 2 visits, but you can't hear him. Okay, no worries.
Well, I heard yesterday.
But maybe if you've got internet problems, just keep talking indefinitely.
I heard yesterday evening.
Maybe Johnny cannot pick up on a subtle hint. No,
so
you've got internet problems. Just stop interrupting the people who don't then. Sort your internet out. Okay, Johnny? Thank you. Go ahead, QB.
So last night somebody sent me a little clip from one of the ether priests, and they said that ether is light and light is the ether. What about that?
Yeah, but no, because our light is propagating through the ether. So light, you cannot see light in reality. You need matter.
What a load of nonsense. All I see is light in reality. What a load of nonsense.
Light spectrum. We are talking about the spectrum of light.
The spectrum of light that I see that we never see, according to you, you stupid shit.
Yeah,
we're really going to have this discussion.
So we don't see light.
That obviously doesn't get it and is not that well versed in English. I mean, this is
a joker.
Never going to end.
No, this is just a joker taking us all for a little trip. No. I don't want to hear this anymore, Johnny. I'm just getting frustrated with you. Because when you say we don't see light and then go on to detail the spectrum of light that we see, it makes you a double-speaking clown, and I just don't want to continue the conversation with double-speaking clowns.
I say you don't see all lights, I say. Not you cannot see the light. But if you take all the material out and you're in a so great vacuum you can make, then the light will be invisible.
Okay, I'll stop him again. If I take all of the matter in my house and make a great vacuum in my house, just talking stupid, nonsensical garbage that makes absolutely no sense, and I'm sick of it.
I'm not talking about the house. I'm talking about the vacuum chamber.
Well, the light goes through the vacuum chamber. Yeah. The medium
Yes,
is
it does.
space available.
Right, where in
That's the
nature do
medium.
we observe a
Yes.
vacuum? Where does this occur in nature?
That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Where do we observe this in nature for me to concern myself with it in regards to the nature of my world? Where do we observe a vacuum in nature?
But you have to relax, because I am...
Dickhead! We don't observe a vacuum in nature. No such beast exists. Nature abhors a vacuum, but you're going to describe how your Ethereum belief comes from demonstrations with vacuums. My question to you, where do we see one in nature? Your reply, I need to calm down. No, you need to bugger off. You're a dickhead.
No.
Not funny. You're wasting our time, dickhead. Bugger off, dickhead. We are sick of you, dickhead. You're talking nonsense, dickhead. Why do you persist in your nonsense, you stupid dickhead? I am sick of dickheads telling me I need to calm down while they tell me about light spectrums that we can't see and then tell us about the spectrum that we can see. It's nonsense. You're just talking stupid nonsense. You're about to launch into telling us how ether's proved with a vacuum demonstration. I ask you, where is a vacuum observed in nature? And you ask me to calm down, making you a dickhead.
It's not a question. That's not a question.
It is. Where do we observe vacuums in nature? So I can compare what you are going to give us as a demonstration to nature. Answer, we do not.
You're not good at this today. You're absolutely...
So another ad hominem. Is this like the last time you came and it launched? We get into, what, 25 ad hominem attacks? Your example with ether demonstrations with vacuums don't apply to nature because nature abhors a vacuum. Okay?
Ethan, I am not your enemy.
I don't give a crap. I hardly remember your name most of the time. Meanwhile, the argument that you are making as a faceless troll who I don't care about and don't care about you attacking me personally, I am listening to your argumentation in regards to the nature of Earth, which is what I invite people to do here. You are talking about a very unnatural circumstance of a vacuum. That's my argument in rebuttal. Don't care how you feel about me as a person.
But technically, he is our enemy.
I am not
Hold
thinking
on,
about
Johnny.
you as a person.
You are
I am
the
just
enemy.
talking.
Johnny,
How can I be enemy if I'm
nonsense?
agreeing with you on almost everything?
Okay, where do we observe a vacuum?
Is he firing on all cylinders now?
Where do we find a vacuum in nature for me to compare this to the nature of our reality?
There's no question about that. Of course, maybe it's a vacuum with something inside the Earth because of the pressure. Maybe there's some vacuum there. We are not talking about that.
Yeah, you are. You were just about to launch into an example with a vacuum. That's exactly what you're talking about. I'm asking where it's observed in nature. You've just talked about pressure. That's the antithesis of a vacuum.
No, I'm talking about how you can manipulate the light to see.
Yeah, ether's a load of old nonsense. It's complete horseshit. The examples they give are using unnatural, man-made circumstances to prove that there's a medium for ether to be called. No, there isn't. It's a load of old nonsense. We've taken apart this guy's argument at its root. His example's going to come from a very unnatural circumstance, and now we're going to get into the wrangle-dangle round and round about whether or not that's the case. Ether's garbage. We've just debunked it. Your example won't prove a damn thing. It has nothing to do with the nature of reality, because nature abhors a vacuum.
That's right. You're wrong about that.
Do you want to offer
because you say that.
Whoa!
Don't tell me about what I say. If I am wrong, offer up a rebuttal.
You're just making a fool of yourself now.
So it's a personal attack about me being a fool rather than a rebuttal. No, ether's just not true, and I have just debunked it. Okay? That's the end of the argument. You failed, you lost. To then attack me personally, with Neil constantly rumpusing the conversation, so it's uneditable like usual, is typical. But meanwhile, your ether hasn't been proven. Your baseless assertion with unnatural circumstances to prove it has been debunked. Your personal attack is not a rebuttal to that.
That's nothing about personal attack. I am talking about if you take all the everything in a vacuum chamber.
What, like very unnatural circumstances that you're going to ignore and rinse and repeat the claim that I've just overcome? No, my friend. Garbage. I've debunked ether. You're not going to give me an example that shows us what ether is with a vacuum because that is very unnatural.
So it's about the excitation that the light is going through.
So you're going to make your example. You're going to press on with your example like a fundamentalist religious zealot, chanting his faith in ether with an example that's been overcome. It doesn't matter that it's been overcome. It doesn't matter that it's been challenged. He is going to press on with his example of a very unnatural circumstance to prove a complete bullshit lie about ether, regardless of any challenge that comes his way. You are a machine, a zealot machine. You're going to give me the example regardless of my challenge to it. Before you give your example, that's before the example that you give with an unnatural circumstance of vacuums, tell me where he experienced this in nature so I can compare it to my nature of my Earth. Can you do that? Or do you just need to go through the example without listening to a single word I just said?
I'm doing this experiment in...
How dare you? Just kick him out. Wanker. Not an experiment. How dare you? You're just trying to goad us. That's all you're trying to do.
Johnny, sorry. Can I
Neil,
ask Johnny a question?
shut up, Neil. No, you're not going to goad me by claiming this crap is science. No, you know damn well it isn't. Therefore, I know you're just a joker, just here to taunt us. What, you think you're going to bait me into a discussion about science so you can somehow weasel in an example during the discussion again? Very, very pathetic. You lost, Johnny.
Can I ask a question now?
Neil cannot shut his bleeding mouth, can he? You lost, Johnny.
No,
Ether's bullshit. I will summarise, not you.
Listen to it again.
I will summarise. I will summarise, not you. You lost. It doesn't mean suddenly you get the floor.
No.
You lost.
No.
Yes, not just yeah, hand wave through the top of me. You were going to give an example with a failure to compare it to our actual physical reality. That would be to say, give an example with a man-made circumstance of vacuums that has no comparison to the natural world. Now, that is your loss, where you lost, Johnny. Don't be a weasel.
How are you able to get answer if you're not manipulating?
So you're going to try and hand wave this and move it back onto your complete charlatan claim of an experiment. That's what you're going to do. Rinse and repeat that attempt, even though I've already overcome that attempt. No, you're not going to bait us into a discussion about science so that you have the opportunity to weasel in your non-experiment with a vacuum that is unnatural. You haven't addressed it, even though I put it to you 6 times. Just a joker, a weasel, a pathetic loser.
That is crazy. I have to take out all the variables to see how you can manipulate it, and if I take out all...
But you've got to create an unnatural circumstance to manifest an ether that doesn't exist in natural circumstances. Yeah, I know. You've got to create a man-made device, suck all the air out, and then describe what happens with your man-made device that isn't natural. Give me an example where that compares to the natural world, and I'll take it seriously. That's about the 8th time.
I'm manipulating the phenomenon of the light, and I'm doing that my way, and I'm doing that truthfully, and you don't understand that. It's like,
how dare you? I understand that this is not an experiment, as you've claimed, and you've not addressed my response to it. I've offered the rebuttal. You've ignored it. I asked you where this was experienced in physical reality for me to compare it. You haven't answered that either. You lost, Johnny.
What are you lost? I'm still my.
Just get a grip, you stupid, pathetic, stammering wanker. You lost. Stop stuttering and just accept it, man up, you pathetic weasel. Accept your loss. You didn't have any response when I asked whether this was comparable to nature. You failed. You didn't have anything because I wouldn't let you take us through the garbage claim that it was an experiment. You lost. Accept it.
It's like you don't know what experiment is.
So you're going to now tell me what I don't know? Another personal attack? I do know what an experiment is. This 3rd attempt to weasel in a discussion about what science is, so you have an opportunity to describe what happens in a vacuum that's unnatural, won't be happening. You have lost. Accept it.
You forgot that science is not a thing.
He's going to keep doing it. 4th attempt to try and weasel in this as an experiment, so I debate it with him, so he can make his implications of what ether happens in vacuums. 5th attempt, right? Pathetic. You cannot accept your loss. Your only tactic is to rinse and repeat. Keep trying. Keep trying to weasel in the discussion about whether or not this is science. No, it isn't. There is no naturally occurring phenomena in vacuums. I covered this 7 times.
The reincarnation of Bob Nodell.
Nothing wrong about Bob not there.
No, we've just debunked his ether. It's garbage that needs non-natural circumstances, man-made devices, and inferences that aren't comparable to our nature of our reality. That's what we have debunked it with. That's how you lost today here. So long live Nodell and his garbage that we've been debunking for years, that you've peddled here. We've debunked it for you personally. Do you want to hand wave again, or maybe try again for the 7th time to get us onto a discussion about what science is, so you can weasel in a discussion of what happens in vacuum chambers? Do you want to try that for a 7th time? Pathetic weasel.
So are you saying you're not able to...
I'm saying we won. You lost. You're not acknowledging it. You lost when you claimed that you got an Ethereum example with a vacuum. I demolished it. You haven't acknowledged it, so don't try and summarise what I'm saying. Just acknowledge what I have said for at least one attempt out of the 8 that have come so far. You have to acknowledge what I have said, not try and summarise it. Do you understand that there are no natural vacuums? Because you haven't acknowledged that in 8 attempts of me trying to tell it to you. You aren't willing to accept that the natural example of a vacuum is a natural. But what you can do is rumpus the Discord server the entire time I talk to you, so you don't have to acknowledge it. And nobody's going to back that you've heard it from Discord because you've been talking the entire time. Yeah, it's not a natural circumstance in your experiment, and we're not going to be discussing it as science as a result of that. You haven't acknowledged that in 9 attempts.
Yeah, I'm very sorry you're taking this...
Try making it into a personal attack again. What a scumbag.
No,
you were just trying to figure out while you stuttered and stammered how you could turn it into a personal attack.
No, because...
Look, you stuttering prick. One more attempt, and then I'm going to kick you out, Johnny. You lost when you claimed a very unnatural circumstance to give a juxtaposition with ether. We don't experience vacuums, and your non-stop incessant talking through me won't be taken as a win simply because Discord can't hear me taking your argument to pieces. You don't have a natural circumstance of a vacuum. That's how you lost this argument. And there he is again, talking straight through it because he doesn't want Discord to hear the argument being taken apart. There's a gate, Johnny. Doesn't matter if you talk during the top of my summary. The audience still hears how you've been taken apart, mate.
It's embarrassing for you.
That's a personal attack. Kick him out. One of the moderators, please remove Johnny B from this discussion. I'm not going to tolerate any more personal attacks from him. Please remove him.
You're crying.
Nathan, a point if I may interject.
Yeah?
You described a vacuum as an antithesis to gas pressure, but it is gas pressure, just very low gas
Fair
pressure.
enough. I'll take that on the chin.
Just one thing.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of getting ad-hommed when I win. So what? I'm going to be called somebody that doesn't comprehend or has comprehension skill issues. No, I understand implicitly. I listened to every word and took it apart at its root. So did everybody on the panel, undoubtedly, before I got back. Right? But will that be accepted or acknowledged in any way, shape or form? No. He'll look for an angle to rinse and repeat the exact same claim that he didn't acknowledge the rebuttal to. 10 attempts is enough. Prick. Get lost. Now, Neil, now's your opportunity when no one else is debating and discussing things.
Shut up, Nathan.
It's just like you leave a
just
massive,
don't understand.
prolonged silence.
I just wanted to ask John because I thought he wasn't understanding you, but he is. He's just playing a game. I just want to ask him to show me a vacuum in nature so then he can rely on it. But you did ask him that, so I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's what we've got. We are now being tied up by people like Johnny who want to engage us in our wasting of our time with ether. I'm tired of it. Why are we wasting our time with this crap? They claim the sky is a vacuum out of space. So what, Ethereans need examples with vacuums? Do they think the sky is a vacuum as well? What's going on? No, we're just wasting our time with these tossers.
There's kind of parallels to what was being discussed in the pre-show to what just happened with Johnny.
How do you mean?
Kind of content. Just that he wants to waste your time. get you talking about nonsense so that he can derail the conversation.
Yeah.
And then we spend our time talking about other trolls and little tips.
One more time, Adam.
So when you only see the sun for a couple of hours a day at this time of year, you've got to find something to entertain yourself.
Yeah, he was talking about ice walls and everything. He's stuck in a feast of nonsense, Johnny.
I don't know. Is he just trolling us because he's bored? Is my point I'm making. He's clearly not got any salient points himself to make. He demonstrated it. He doesn't even understand the rhetoric that's being used that he's trying to invoke. Not able to even describe that. So he's just a bored, lonely person, isn't he?
Maybe. It seems more nefarious.
It's a shame, though.
While we're bracing against the Feast of Nonsense, to have somebody come in to peddle affirmatively the Feast of Nonsense arguments seems far more nefarious to me. Maybe it's just me. I'm trying to walk away from this nonsense. Not getting the wrangle-dangle about it. So proactive promotion of Feast of Nonsense arguments seems a bit suspicious. Maybe that's just my mindset.
I just wanted to get you firing on all cylinders.
What does that mean?
Johnny said you weren't firing on all cylinders, so I brought up a topic to where you were.
Yeah, you would say, what's wrong with you?
I'm with Nathan. We were very gentlemanly. We opened the doors. We've let people give their best explanations, as contradictory as they've been, or nonsensical as they've been. There's nothing to deal with. Nothing's been presented that warrants any further discussion. Even as the emissary, I'm bored of it. Unless there's something new they'd like to present or correct a previous position or contradiction, then really there's no benefit in going over the same nonsense again and again just to demonstrate that the Ethereans don't really understand what they're on about.
I agree. And I said we should divorce ourselves, but we were never married to them. So we don't have to hand them the divorce papers. We were never with them.
They don't need to divorce them, but short shrift, if they're coming here with nothing new, is all that's required.
Yeah, that's what frustrates me. The short shrift we give them is met with a rinse and repeat cycle 10 times over, with a complete lack of acknowledgement of any rebuttal. And when the repetition of the rebuttal comes, all I see is him fighting the gate while I talk 8 times. Just back to the rumpus's tactics.
Yeah.
But
So-
Nathan, that did remind me of that whole Bob Nodell thing, because he kept trying to push that experiment, non-experiment, just like Johnny was trying to do.
Yeah. So what do we end up doing? The people who can actually point out how Earth's measured flat are ending up arguing about vacuum chambers and ether. Yeah, to keep us tied up with nonsense, and then we'll never be putting out the actual useful information that we currently have.
And he also said, you don't know what an experiment is.
It's just baiting us. He knows I can get us, he thinks he knows I can get us talking. I'll just claim it's an experiment and they'll definitely argue with you then, and there'll be plenty of opportunities to throw in his nonsense about ether, so long as they kept talking. Me shutting him down and stopping him doesn't work for him. So he's got to do something to get me talking with him. No, I've already dealt with it 10 times. Just an exact example. We discussed this earlier with Cats and Toon. They did the exact same thing. Cannot acknowledge or accept the rebuttal. So they just instinctually ignore it outright and rinse and repeat their claim. How do these angles work on a flat plane? What, these angles that came from a flat plane, Toon? 87 times later he got bored and disappeared. Not acknowledged that, no, the angles are only capable of measurement from a flat plane. That's where you got them from. You're going to keep asking me 87 times how they work on a flat plane in the face of me telling you they can only come from a flat plane. That's what we're dealing with, Johnny. So suddenly 87 renditions of the same thing with McToon, or 100 plus renditions with Cats about gas pressure without a container doesn't seem so dramatic when you see some fundy with Ether doing it 10 times in one show.
That's the distinctive difference between, I hope there's not too much of a reverb here, between us and who we're dealing with. Both our opposition on the globe side and our opposition within this arena from our supposed our side, they're all just people with beliefs. That's the main difference. They have all these beliefs that we don't hold, and they're here telling us, asking us, why don't you hold the same belief we have? Because it's stupid to hold these beliefs. That's what.
And beliefs have to be pushed. Got to push that belief.
Yeah, at our detriment. In the face of insults. So I've just shown you wrong, and what I get in return is you constantly insulting me. Insulting my intelligence. Telling me I'm stupid. Telling me I don't understand. Not acknowledging the rebuttal that absolutely annihilates the point. Just cast down the opponent personally. Again and again and again. No, sod that. Eventually you'll get called a wanker, because that's what you're being.
Well, that was my frustration this morning when I said the things we talk about here and the nonsense that's spoken about everywhere else. It's like nobody's ever grown. Are we like the only ones growing? Are we the only kids in a class that are growing?
Based on the video we watched today, obviously there's going to be a greater influence of people at large by the main narrative that comes their way from flat earthers. And if the main narrative is full of garbage, that's what gets parroted on these random channels that end up covering conspiracy, with flat earth being one of the subject matters. It's not a conspiracy. It's a measurement. It's how the globe came to pass. But yet we're having to fight against people who describe their belief in flat earth to others. It's sad. We should be beyond this by now.
How can we flip it? How come, Brian, 1 second real quick. How can we flip it that the world can see, or even people in this arena, that the freaking globe is the real conspiracy?
Yeah, but the problem we have is that if you listen to that video from earlier, that's indicative of so many other claimed debates that's happened in this arena, is that you have one person's belief versus another person's belief. Both beliefs are standing in opposition to each other, and none of them have knowing. And that's the problem. The world is trained to have beliefs and not knowing. We need to show them where they need to know. That's what needs to happen, not just believe.
Who was the guy that used to be on the show early that didn't have belief? What was it? Slick James.
What about him?
That's what they need. They need a dose of Slick James explaining to them what beliefs are.
I don't believe it.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!